Good morning.
Morning. We're going to get started here in just another one more minute, okay?
Absolutely. This is Albert Miller from NSBE.
Hey, Albert, thanks for joining. All right, perfect. I've got 9:03, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And I know we've got different segments in the agenda where we have people that will be coming in and out. But good morning. We hope everyone's feeling fantastic this morning, Saturday morning. Yeah, I'm looking forward to a nice day and a fantastic summit here. So thanks for joining the our inaugural. I say that right, Yolanda? Inaugural? Yeah, I think I did. Entrepreneur Summit event for the Black STEM Alliance. You know, we've done different things together, but this is our first one focusing on small businesses. So looking forward to today's session. I'm Tyrone Ellis, president of National Black MBA, and we're going to introduce each one of the presidents here in just a moment for the Black STEM Alliance. So with that, our agenda for today, we're going to spend just about a half an hour here on intros and talk a little bit about why we started the STEM Alliance, and we're excited to have a featured speaker here from Train Technologies, Deidra Williams, who I think everyone will thoroughly enjoy to learn more about the Sustainable Futures Initiative and what Train is embarked on under Deidra's leadership. Also, we've got at 9:30, we'll transition to a marketing update, and Jose will help with that. Turn it over to him as our facilitator, and Jose Wilkins is the director of the Entrepreneurship Committee for the National Black MBA, and kind of been the program manager for this event for us, and he'll be the facilitator, a moderator, I should say, for the meeting today. At 10 o'clock, we're transitioning over to business development with Charles Kearse, and then at 10:30, we'll switch over to virtual business and cybersecurity focus. And then 11 o'clock, smart business accounting and best practices there. Access to capital at 11:30, which is a very important topic that we certainly want to have some great dialogue around. And then at 12 o'clock, we'll come back and talk about some legal services and assistance that's available out there. So we've got a small panel who's going to talk about some of that access that's for the state of North Carolina, not just Charlotte, but for the state of North Carolina. So we're excited to hear about that. And then we're going to wrap up at 12:30 to 1, and just with some closing remarks and comments and reflections from the event today. So as you can see, we've got a full agenda today of exciting information that we believe can help support the small business community. So with that, I want to actually get into the why for the Charlotte Black STEM Alliance. And so we've got all four presidents on board. And so we'll start off with Yolanda, who's on the far left. Yolanda, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yes, good morning all, and thank you so much for joining. My name is Yolanda Hemphill, and I'm the NABA Charlotte chapter president. NABA stands for National Association of Black Accountants. So if you're interested in some accounting and you need some additional assistance in that, always happy to help.
Awesome. Thanks, Yolanda. Appreciate it. Next, we'll go to Natasha.
Hi, everyone. I'm Natasha Walwyn Robinson. I'm the local chapter president of Blacks in Technology Foundation. We are focused on stomping the divide and increasing Black representation in all technology endeavors. So thanks for having us.
Awesome. Thanks, Natasha. Tony, you can go next.
Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Tony Stanford. I'm the president of National Society of Black Engineers here in Charlotte. We're looking forward to connecting with you guys. And of course, our goal is to increase the number of responsible engineers. So definitely want to help you excel academically, professionally, and anything you need. So definitely look forward to connect with you guys.
Great. Thanks, Tony. And as I mentioned, I'm Tyrone Ellis, the president of National Black MBA for Charlotte. We are a plethora of different majors that actually touches some of the same majors that the other chapters focus on. But a lot of our members do have MBAs and are a number of business owners within the chapter as well. We're considered a large chapter within the National Black MBA chapter structure, along with Chicago, Atlanta, I think New York, and out west San Francisco. So we have quite a few members, and I think was kind of led into reaching out and why we wanted to interact with the other chapter presidents, because when you look at the aims, our aims, and the aims of these fantastic chapters and leaders, there was a lot of synergy when it comes to wanting to support the community and really help with underserved majors and our students and our professionals in the region. And so we decided to come together, and certainly the power of the team just expands and increase our reach. And so we wanted to try to offer joint membership discounts so that we can participate, our members can participate in each other's chapters and take advantage of scholarships and other things that we offer as organizations, joint programming events like we're doing here today, expanded networking. I think we're going to do some networking events coming up here toward the end of the year. So looking forward to that. One of the most important ones, the next three in my mind, is increased community impact. How can we, I think between the four of us, we're probably approaching 1,000 members in our, in the community all together. So with pretty significant quantity of Black students, professionals that we touch. And you think about our marketing reach, we can actually communicate out widely across the region about things that are important for our community to know. STEM promotion when it comes to things like entrepreneurs and professionals. As I think most of you know, Charlotte was named the top STEM growth city in the country. And so certainly we want to make sure that we're opening up doors and avenues for our members to participate in that, and especially our young people to know about the opportunities here and how can we support their growth there. And things like, and that's where the STEM youth development comes into play. We did a pilot this year with NSBE Junior and Leaders of Tomorrow program, where we've got the two coming together, and we're expanding that this year for our high school students as an example, where we go over STEM majors and focus areas in one meeting. Then the next meeting, we're doing more of leadership development as well. And so we're going to double that program, I think, coming up this year almost. So we're pretty excited about that as we continue to focus on STEM and what's important in our region. And so that's why we came together. The sky's the limit on where we can take this to, but we're pretty powerful, I guess, excited, I should say, about the potential of these four organizations working together in a way that hopefully you'll see some of the outcome of our work here today as we go through the agenda. So great lead in, especially around the STEM youth development. I want to actually introduce a co-worker, a colleague, just an exciting leader, who's going to talk about train technologies, which is what I do in my day job. And Deidra Williams, and I'm going to switch slides here so we can actually share and let her talk for a few minutes and have the floor. So bear with me, Deidra, and then I'm going to turn it over to you. All right, perfect.
That looks perfect. Thank you so much for a great setup, Tyrone. Thank you for the invitation to join you all. You are starting my morning with all these beautiful brown faces, which is a real treat for me. So thank you so much. As Tyrone said, I'm Deidra Parrish Williams. I am the leader of Global Corporate Social Responsibility at Trane Technologies. I'm just approaching my year anniversary there, so still consider myself a newbie. It's a really dynamic organization with lots of exciting things going on, including that we are in the first leg of execution of our brand new corporate citizenship strategy. And Tyrone's opening is a great setup for talking a little bit about that strategy, because it really does focus on STEM and it focuses squarely on young learners. Let me just tell you a little bit about how we got to the point that we even thought it was worthwhile to have a corporate citizenship strategy. I don't know how many of you know Trane Technologies. It's been around for many, many years through various iterations of ownership and partnership and what have you. But in March of 20, it underwent a divestiture where they separated from Ingersoll Rand. And what happened at that moment was that the company became something of a startup, although it had been around for many years with technology deeply embedded, in industries across the world. And in becoming sort of a startup again, it gave the company an opportunity to step back and re-examine what it wanted to be when it grows up, so to speak. How we want to obviously put forward our products and what our footprint should look like, our leadership, all of that. But in addition to that, they wanted to take a hard look at how we show up in our communities and what our brand stands for, what dials we think we have a chance at moving. And keep in mind that this was happening at the same time that our world, probably more so the United States, but our world was experiencing tremendous upheaval connected to the George Floyd incident and all sorts of conversations about important and needed conversations about social justice. So to their credit, our leadership team took a step back and did some thoughtful examination of who we are as a company, our products, technologies, our culture, our people, and talk to our teams as well about what issues really matter and what things that we think we have a chance to positively affect. And so out of that work and out of that sort of deep conversation that was happening across the company, the decision was made that, you know what, we really need to get more serious, more focused, and more invested in our corporate citizenship work. And so from that came the thinking that we would stand up a new strategy. And that's what happened. So coming out of 2020, created the first ever corporate citizenship strategy, decided that we would name it, put some real rigor and resource around it. And that's what we came up with. So if you'd advance us to the next slide, I'll share a little bit about what that looks like. The name of the strategy is Sustainable Futures. And we think that's spot on because what we're trying to do is build support for young people to help them succeed in the future. Sustainable Futures really is exactly what you see here in that purple bar. It's all about uplifting underrepresented students and helping them gain access to careers in the green and STEM field. We know that the data is telling us that there are going to be incredible gaps in terms of talent in some of those careers, advanced manufacturing specifically. We also know that there are life-sustaining, good-paying careers in those industries. And third, we know that people in minority communities often don't have the same access or the same impressions about work in those fields. And so we want to fill those gaps, because if we can help direct them and support them into those careers, we believe that we can uplift those individuals. By uplifting those individuals, we uplift families, and by extension, communities. So that's the long view. Sustainable Futures has 3 primary pillars to it, and that's what you see represented here. And I think about them in terms of our points of interaction with students. So if you think about those 3 things in terms of the academic journey, on the far left, where we're talking about enhancing learning environments, I'd say that for the most part, that's going to take place on the younger level in elementary schools, right? And we want to make sure that we're providing foundational support that every child needs. When we say that, we're talking about making sure that they have access to good indoor air quality, which is something that's come into sharp focus recently with COVID. You know, we're paying a whole lot more attention to the quality of our air. We know more about air than we ever have, probably. So we want to make sure that they've got good indoor air quality. That's essential for learning. And second, we want to make sure that they've got food in their bellies. Pretty essential stuff. But we know that it is a challenge in many districts. And I want to step back and point out 2 things too that you may or may not be aware of. The Trane Technologies portfolio has a number of products and divisions to it. We are essentially an HVAC company where we're providing technologies and support for commercial and residential HVAC, but we've also got a Thermo King division. It's probably our best known brand. You may see Thermo King trucks on the road and that sort of thing. And Thermo King is really all about the transport, the controlled transport of foods and services, food, medicine, that sort of thing. So when you think about this first pillar, and that we're looking to provide support for indoor air quality and food, it really ladders up very nicely with who we are as a company. Talking about that temperature control in a classroom and quality air control and environmental control, those obviously speak to who we are as a commercial HVAC company. And then the food speaks to the Thermo King division and our transport and relationship to the provision of food. In fact, our Thermo King division has a really robust partnership, the community impact program that is a partnership with an organization called Feeding America. And what they do there is partner with Feeding America in making food, refrigeration technology, and some grant support available to soup kitchens, food pantries around the country. It's a really neat program. And so, as I said, I just wanted to explain how we got to those particular areas of focus in the enhanced learning environments pillar. In addition to focusing on those things, we also want to begin the early introduction of STEM learning for young people. We know, and I know I'm speaking to the choir here when I say this, but the earlier we can introduce them and the more favorable impressions we can make to them, the better chance we have of turning them into lovers of STEM concepts. So moving into that middle pier, when we talk about accelerating student success, here again, this is where we really begin in earnest the work of providing them with STEM enrichment experiences. Sometimes that could be academic programs, sometimes that can be experiences that bring them outside of their school, or experiences that give them access to real people who work in the space that help them to bridge the gap. We know, of course, that sometimes the barrier for people in their minds is that around their kitchen tables, around their family gatherings, they may not have somebody in their immediate space that works in that space, so it doesn't feel real to them. A lot of times kids obviously set their ambitions or set their sights on things that feel accessible and feel achievable, and that's formed by who's in their circle. And we want to help them broaden their circle and broaden their exposure to people in these fields, help them know that, number one, they exist, number two, it's doable for you, and number three, importantly, we want to help them understand how to fill that gap from where they are to what it takes to achieve a career in that space. And so those touch points are critically important. So we have a really, just a wonderful culture at Trane Technologies, where volunteerism is a very big part of the fabric of the company. We've got people who are very, very invested in making these connections with young people, and we're just looking to expand that over time. And then lastly, on the right with that last pillar where we talk about opening career pathways, we want to meet them on the other end, right? And make sure that we're supporting them into the workspace. And that can look like many, many things. It can be simple things like soft skill work where we're helping them with interview skills and resume building. It can be creating job fairs for them. It can be all sorts of things. It can be partnerships with nonprofits that are helping to do that work. So I think that's a perfect setup for the next slide, where we'll talk about how we're supporting this strategy. Doing all of this, it's a concept, but we really need to apply resource to it to make it work, right? And when we launched Sustainable Futures, we did it with what we feel are some pretty bold commitments. This is not something that is just for here and now. It's something that we're going to be working at for many years. It's something that includes the investment of our entire organization, not just here in the Charlotte area, which is home for us, but across the United States and indeed across the globe. We've invested in Sustainable Futures of $100 million in grant support that's going to flow through a network of really talented nonprofit organizations around the world, as well as 500,000 hours of employee volunteer time, which again is going to be really important in bringing this to life. We are going to count, of course, on our nonprofits because they're on the ground, they're the experts, they're working with young people already, they're invested and partnered with school systems around the world. So we are going to count on them, but we also have a number of programs in place that are going to deploy talented executives, employees, like Tyrone, who you know, and lots of others like Tyrone throughout our company to get them out into the field to help make those connections with young people and help them really envision what a life working in STEM, advanced manufacturing, that sort of thing looks like. I think for a lot of them, the idea of STEM feels very stuffy or, hard, linear, nuts, bolts, math. They don't appreciate that there are lots of creative and dynamic experiences, careers, and opportunities. And the other thing that I think is important for them to understand is how the careers impact their world. And that's another thing that we want to help bring to them, is helping them understand the applications of these careers in their life today. It's all very, very interesting, and we want to help bring that to them. So Tyrone, why don't you take us to our last slide? And this one is a slide that I think helps us bring together exactly how this will work. We're trying to build ecosystems, and I apologize that these words get a little bit small on this slide, but I'll talk us through it a little bit. We're trying to build ecosystems in the communities where we're working. Right now, our focus is really on Charlotte in this first leg of our launch of Sustainable Futures for a few reasons. Obviously, as I said, it's our home. We're based in Davidson, and Charlotte is really important to us. And we want to get some things right. We really want to lock down this model so that we can replicate it in other key markets. And I am going to talk through this, but know that this is a perfect opportunity and an invitation to those of you on this call is in getting to know many of you just in the introduction this morning. I think that there are a number of synergies that could be possible. So what you're looking at is an example of how our Sustainable Futures partnership is meant to work. So if you look at that blue bar, that blue horizontal bar, what I'm trying to capture there for us is how this relationship will evolve. And it's really walking us through those three pillars of the Sustainable Futures partnership. If you look at the left side, what we're talking about is underrepresented students go into our pipeline, and we meet them early on in their educational career with green and STEM curriculum experiences. And as I mentioned earlier, also working with school systems to provide them support to make sure that those schools have good quality indoor air and environmental experiences. We also will be working with them to make sure that they have access to healthy foods. Moving into that middle box, that's where we meet them in the middle and high school years, again, supporting them with green and STEM curriculum. That can be that we're helping provide them partnerships with nonprofit organizations that specialize in STEAM academies and that sort of thing. It could be that we're helping provide them access to certification programs that help them graduate out of high school with a certification in hand. Of course, you know that not every student is bound for a 2 or 4 year college experience. Many of them will graduate with certifications that get them ready to enter into a trade right away. And that could be what that engagement looks like. And then on the college level, I talked a little bit about that already as well. We're going to be working to make sure that students and teachers both have support to help make sure that students are ready to graduate and enter successfully into the work environment. That could mean that we're working on training teachers to help train students. It could mean, again, that we're providing students with certification opportunities, internships, apprenticeships, and again, support around those soft skills. The hope being that on the other end of this pipeline, we're turning out, we're making educators more able to support their students, but most importantly, that we're turning out future students who are really ready to enter into the work world, meet the rigor and the challenge of careers in the STEM space. What you see at the bottom, that first band of Fox's Thermo King residential and commercial is really just meant to represent our businesses. As I mentioned, those are our 3 primary business divisions. They're going to be tied directly into this model, each of them in a unique way, providing support and partnership to help advance this model. And then those other icons, the who and the where, are meant to represent the who are some of our partners that we're currently working with. NC3 is one of our primary partners, they provide certification partnerships where they're working in high schools and often in community colleges, providing students with certifications and teachers and educators with support to teach and instruct the students in those certification classes. And then we have partnerships with Urban League, organizations like Project Scientists, Project Drawdown Learn, and I'm sure you know already, Tony, with NSBE, a really deep and robust partnership. I see your fist raised up there. We're excited about it and very proud of it too. And then the where is really meant to represent, as I've covered a bit, where these partnerships take place. Obviously within the school system, sometimes they'll be taking place in vocational colleges and other environments too. And we're excited. We're looking for partners, actively looking for partners that can help us bridge the gap between our skill, our resources, and the students. We're looking for partners who can help us gain access to school systems and environments where those students live, play, spend time, environments where we can help to introduce these experiences to them. We're looking for creative solution builders as well, people who can think about new programs where we might be able to bring our resources to bear to, again, to help fill this gap. So I have been doing a lot of talking, so I'm going to pause there, and I'm happy to open up to any questions anybody has. But if there's not time or opportunity for that, I do want to say that I am happy to, at any point afterwards, have folks reach out and follow up. I'd love to have conversations about the work you're doing and any creative ideas you might have that we should explore as we're looking to advance sustainable futures.
Deidra, this is Jose. I want to say, I mean, this is just absolutely phenomenal. And I mean, glad to see Train stepping up to, I mean, this is a huge challenge, and I want to be involved in any way that I can. As far as questions, we would like to, if all possible, have you to use the chat bar, the chat room. And if we will make sure that we get those questions addressed to Deidra. So in the spirit of time, would like to kind of use that chat bar in each of these sessions to capture questions. And then we can also, if you're around, be able to address some of that in the wrap-up session. If that's okay with everybody, with everyone.
I'm happy to do whatever works for you all. It looks like you have a full day planned, so I will let you get on with a terrific day. Thank you so much for the invitation. And please do reach out to Tyrone for my contact information.
Awesome. Thanks, Deidra.
Thank you all so much. Have a great day.
Great. You too.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so on the agenda, we're in the marketing section. And so this is a 9:30 to 10 o'clock session where we are just so excited to have, and Syreeta, I'm probably going to not try to pronounce your last name. And so I'm going to have you to do that in the bio. But we've got Syreeta, I'm just going to say A, who is a VP of marketing at the Compass Group USA. And so just want to turn it over and have her to educate us on the marketing aspects of what's going on.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. It is Syreeta Atiase. So I know it's not an easy one to pronounce when you see it in writing. So, but formally Willis, I go by Syreeta Michelle Atiase. So if you can't land on the Syreeta and you hit Michelle, then that's okay too. If you remember Willis, then I'll respond to all of that, all of the above. So good morning, everyone. I'm going to share just a few slides with the group this morning and talk through marketing and a little bit about the discipline of marketing and why it's critically important for a business, whether you're in entrepreneurship or you're working corporately or in different disciplines across STEM and STEAM, how marketing intersects with our sciences. So let me get to screen sharing if I'm able. It looks like someone may have to grant permissions. And if not, I can definitely just kind of speak through the slides I was gonna cover.
I just making your co-host.
Okay, perfect. So let me get to that really quickly. Thank you. Let's see, best laid plans. Here we go. Present. Awesome. Okay, so hopefully you all are able to see the slides. Again, my name's Syreeta Atiase. I'm the Vice President of Marketing, which is a Compass Group, which is headquartered here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So a little bit about me quickly. As I mentioned, Vice President Marketing. I am an entrepreneur. I hold an MBA, so I'm a member of the National Black MBA Association here within Charlotte. I'm PMP certified and have a list of other trainings, and I'll speak to trainings and the importance of those trainings momentarily. Also, I serve as a nonprofit board member and volunteer. Just a couple to highlight, I'm on the board of an organization called Love Live Christ. And so my faith is able to influence a lot of the work that I do within the community. And then I also am the newly elected chapter president of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated here within the Charlotte market. And a little bit about my strengths through Strength Finders and Gallup, if you're familiar with them. I am a strategic thinker and an influencer, which ties definitely to the marketing side or the marketing aspect. Let's see if it's gonna cooperate today. Here we go. Okay, the flip side. So a little bit on a personal note, I am a wife and a mother of one fun-loving little boy who loves to ask the question, why? Favorite song is As by Stevie Wonder. When I'm feeling a little drained, my hype song is Fight the Power by Public Enemy. And for those of you who are part of the latchkey generation, the song Jump definitely hails from that area. So it's another hype song for me. Favorite food is Ethiopian. And my most prized possession is a stuffed koala bear, Bubba, that my parents, brother, and husband have tried to get me to ditch and get rid of over the years, but Bubba has an eternal place in my closet forever. So a little bit about marketing. Marketing is about finding your people. And when you find your people, you need to get to know them so well that whatever product, whatever service you're going to present to them, it pretty much sells itself. So you don't have to do the selling. One thing that I've been asked to cover or to touch on today are some of the common marketing hurdles or challenges that business owners, entrepreneurs, corporate departments and companies encounter. And at the top of that list is poor communication. We hear it all the time, communication, but being able to clearly articulate and explain everything is critically important. Another key obstacle or hurdle that comes up frequently is knowing how to find your market segment. So let's say you have a tool, an app, a product, you're a baker, whatever it is, do you really understand who your key customer base is and who you need to be targeting? And we'll get into a little bit of that momentarily. The other hurdle is lack of communication between marketing and sales. They are two entirely different disciplines. But if it's a smaller company or startup, you may have to wear both hats. But it's important to know that on the marketing side, you're really getting into the why customers want your product, and being able to identify the right way to push it, to place to, your placement for that product. And then you can switch gears to sales. But if there are two separate entities, understanding that communication between those two groups are critically important. And then finally is no or inconsistent brand identity. You really need to have a strong brand statement and understand what your brand is to the market. All of these are hurdles or obstacles, but really we don't look at them that way in marketing. We look at them as an opportunity for growth. If you're able to overcome these hurdles, it really is about discipline. So if any of you had the chance to watch the Olympics, the hurdles always get me because I am clumsy just walking. So the idea of running full speed and also jumping over hurdles kind of floors me and blows my mind. But it's through practice. It's getting a cadence and getting better and better at it. It's really about refining and honing your skill. So winning ways. One of the things I've also was asked to present or discuss are what are some of the things that are critically important to success? And one is the need to constantly innovate. The market changes. Everything changes much more rapidly today than it used to. So you need to continually be asking yourself the question, am I doing what's needed for the marketplace? The other thing is increasing market visibility. Oftentimes we think a social media platform or I posted something on Facebook or Twitter is enough in order to drive market visibility, but it really is a comprehensive strategy that's required. Another key thing to take away is keep what works running. If you have something that's good and it's operating, then you need to stay focused on that and make sure that you're moving that particular part of your business along. So data, statistics. One of the key things to know in terms of how do you direct your dollars, as we know, they're limited in general typically. And so you have to be able to direct your dollars where you're going to get a significant return. And so this stat I like from a marketing perspective, because you get a 223% return on the proper conversion rate optimization tools. So what does that mean? It means if you're investing in things like your website, for example, we've shifted in many ways from brick and mortar to click and mortar. Most of us now are delving into whether we want to eat somewhere, we look online or on our phones or mobile devices, but gone are the days, again, going back to the latchkey generation reference, gone are the days of the yellow book or the yellow pages that sat on the coffee table. Everything now is about your digital footprint. So tools of the trade, and some of the key things to bear in mind as you think about your marketing strategy is tapping into key industry experts. You don't have to know all the answers, but you need to be able to identify and find partners that you can work with that can help you along your journey. Also, key segment influencers. As an influencer myself, I have this conversation sometimes with influencers within the social space, but influence began long before there was social media. We influence through our relationships, through politics, through the materials that we put together, whether PowerPoint presentations or meetings and discussions in that way. But what's really important, or kind of what builds from that, is having a content creation and a strategy around that content creation. How are you going to communicate with everyone within your ecosystem? Apps, of course, app design, development kind of takes it to the next level. And we spoke a little bit about web design and development, and analytics and reporting. Effective marketing begins and ends with data. So you need to understand who you're marketing to, and then have tools in place to be able to track and understand what's working. And it goes back to that previous point about keep what's working. So a little bit about Decodey and another affiliation that I have. I've had the opportunity in my corporate role to support, over the last 5 years in this current role, more than $1 billion in revenue. And what I've been able to glean or pull from those experiences is a lot of key insights. And some of those insights have led me to be able to share a little bit more about my experiences. And one of the key takeaways is about having a well-balanced team. So my son is in a STEM school. It's his background. I'm more artistic, creative. He's more science, data, facts from that perspective. So I'm excited to be on a call with folks within this space. I'm thinking I should jot down some names so I can hit you all up for 4th grade math questions. So, but I think being able to glean out a well-balanced team, meaning you've got scientists, you've got sellers, you've got your marketers. But when you're a startup or an entrepreneur, the ability to invest in those teams can be a little bit challenging. And so it's really important to find agencies or find partners that are able to meet you where you are in terms of defining your brand identity and your brand strategy that can help push from a lead generation perspective, and also really hone in from a customer retention standpoint. One of the really unique things for me as well is being able to do marketing both corporately, also serving from a nonprofit perspective and doing marketing, and really gleaning from all of those experiences working with multi-million-dollar sales folks and marketers in order to help entrepreneurs move their vision forward. Quickly, just a quick quote. Our chief want in life is someone who shall make us do what we can. This is the service of a friend. With him, we are easily great. And that's by Waldo Emerson. And again, it goes back to the importance of a well-balanced team. So here's my contact information for those who may have any additional questions related to marketing. I know that the chat is also available, and I've hopefully built in a little extra time to address some of the questions as well. One of the things I was asked about is also providing resource or ideas or books. So outside of the Decodey and that platform, a couple of books, if you wanted to jot down a name of a few that I find really helpful from a marketing perspective, is books around persuasion. So I had to look because I am a bookworm and I wanted to narrow them down. But The Psychology of Influence and Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. He also has a book called Persuasion that's really good from a marketing perspective. And another one that I like as well is The Innovation Stack by John McKelvey. And he's the co-founder of Square, I think. I'm pretty sure. I know it's one of the tech companies. So, but those are a couple that I am really fond of for those of you who are entrepreneurs, or again, looking at how do you sell more? How do you support your program? How do you help move things forward within the community? These are all tools and things that can be applied across many different disciplines. So with that, I'll stop talking and see if there are any questions.
I have a question, Syreeta. Jose, I guess it's okay to come off mute. We're good with that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hey, Syreeta, thanks so much. Great presentation.
Thank you.
I was having a conversation with a small business owner earlier this week, and she was really frustrated with trying to figure out this whole marketing piece and how to get in front of the right people. And as I started asking a series of questions, and I think we finally got to the conclusion, she was actually focusing way too high, meaning that, yeah, especially when it comes to, federal or governmental contracts, you got what I kind of call the tier ones, right? Those large engineering firms that are out there. But, the primes, I think they call them, from automotive days, I always want to say tier one, but those tier two opportunities where if you're a prime on a contract, you need a certain number of minority, sub-suppliers, right? Kind of tier two, tier three, that in order to show that you're, you're managing, opening up opportunities for diverse, suppliers as a prime. And I'm just curious, any advice on, was that good advice that I gave her, first of all? And secondly, any advice on, what are any tools to help you kind of get to your right, market
Segment.
aspect, right? Yeah, but especially being a small business. Does that make sense?
It does. So thank you for that question. One of the key things to understand from a marketing perspective, and I think your advice was sound, a lot of times as minority businesses, we tend to be very small, at least starting out, and it continues, meaning we're not necessarily having large payroll of folks in order to achieve the things that we need to achieve. One of the things to consider, so just a couple of recommendations, is operating in that tier one level and getting proof points, building partnerships within that initial space of smaller business. And then that gives you the revenue. It allows you to run those dollars through your business. So then you're able to use that as a proof point when you need to elevate up to that next tier, to tier two. One of the things to consider for business as well is partnerships, joint ventures, things like that, where you can connect with other businesses, because there is such an emphasis right now on minority spend. Being able to partner with another agency that's not a minority, but of course, making sure that you engage legal counsel in terms of making sure that those agreements are in your best interest. So those are just two recommendations.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions?
Yeah, and if you have questions, please remember to come off mute.
Go to the chat. Okay. I will definitely type those books in. Yep, someone's got them for me. Thank you. Thanks.
Well, I've got a follow-up question if nobody else is going to throw one out there. So,
Okay.
When it, with being a small business, it obviously trying to figure out how much you should allocate towards your marketing, in your budget, right? And I get that question quite frequently. What should that look like? Just curious, any advice there or thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's important to start with a plan. Most often we know we need different elements from our marketing solution. And I've worked with mid-range companies, and some, are bringing in revenue of $1 million, and you sit down with them and they are paying, a social media company exorbitant amount of money and nothing's connected, or they seem to be doing well and they've missed some fundamentals. Like this one particular company did not trademark. It was a medical company. They did not trademark the name of their company. And so they had paid someone from a website perspective, they had someone working on their social media, they missed like one of those fundamentals. And so another company was coming in and challenging the use of the name. And so I think beyond the financial investment, it really is about sitting down and having some conversations to make sure you're framing it out effectively. And there are agencies, as I mentioned with Dakota, again, we're incentivized to help businesses succeed. A lot of times we're not working or historically haven't worked with minority small companies because of the misunderstanding around that investment. It's too expensive. But, you know, in order to support my brand, I need, you know, the latest Louis purse or the latest, you know, Coco Chanel. But I'm like, you need to really spend, you know, this $500 to trademark your business so that you are secure. So I think sometimes it's having those early discussions, mapping it out. It's the importance of consulting, and then you can figure out reasonable investments and plan them over time.
Syreeta, I have a question.
Okay.
Willie Royal, I'm new to the Charlotte metro area from St. Louis, and
welcome.
My wife and I ex-wife and I ran a medical practice for about 16 years, and, you know, never ran a business before, and it was very difficult. And a challenge earlier, and I happened upon a book by Mike Gerber called The E-Myth, Why Small Businesses Don't Work and What to Do to Fix Them. And, you know, he just talks about having to wear all of the hats, particularly if you're an ultra small business or a nonprofit, which is where most Black people are. And so we're trying to get a handle on all of these. And if it's a medical practice, there's regulatory compliance at the federal, state, and local level, marketing, financial reporting, all of these hats, right? And taking care of patients. Marketing is, you know, in the mix of things, marketing is a challenge, particularly from that micro business level to for somebody who hasn't done it. And in this new area, I happened up on Seth Godin, who did permission marketing and idea virus and so forth. Still, I had a very difficult time wrapping my head around the social media management at the small business level in context of all the other obligations of keeping that business running. So are there recommendations for the ultra small business startup, particularly with Black folk and nonprofits? What most of the aims seem to be at medium-sized corporations and large corporations, and accessibility in terms of how to be effective in the marketing arena for small Black businesses, I think is just kind of, it's a big challenge. Any counsel that you can give as I look at entrepreneurial possibilities here in Charlotte?
Yeah. Well, first, welcome to Charlotte. Welcome to the Queen City. So I hope that you enjoy it here. It's definitely a pretty dynamic place to be. So to tackle your question and understanding the importance from a medical practice standpoint and being a small business, marketing definitely gets deprioritized, right? When you're confronted with patient care, HIPAA, and you're also confronted with regulatory compliance, those sort of things are going to take precedent in some ways to some of the challenges that you're encountering. But marketing definitely is tied very closely to that. Now you're just 1 or 2 Yelp reviews away from, you know, having a negative impact to your revenue based on that. I think it goes back earlier to agency or consultancy. And again, the space that I've started to really work in, and from a Dakota perspective, is targeting that small to mid-range company standpoint. And there are other agencies outside of Dakota that exist, obviously, but there are resources, you know, now where people are taking all of this corporate knowledge and then they're able to apply it to smaller businesses. Again, incentivized to see those businesses succeed and excel, and finding the right price point, the right resources to help you succeed so that it becomes less labor intensive. Now, there are a lot of things like technology that exists. I mean, it goes back to those conversion optimization tools. There are things out there that can automate the process, give you reports, flag things for you to have to do so it becomes less labor intensive for you.
Okay,
Thank
we
you.
can take one more question, and then we, if it's okay, Syreeta, if we could, is it okay to have everyone just send you any questions directly to your email or to the Dakota?
Yep, absolutely.
Have a question? If I can, Jose.
Go ahead.
Will Johnson and Will Johnson Insurance. I run a small insurance agency, Syreeta. I started it 2 months before COVID hit. So in regards to marketing, I understand, I understand what you were saying about marketing to potential clients, but I also have to market to referral partners, right? So what does that look like? Just on average, what does that look like in regards to the marketing to you, B2B, I guess, to your business partners, trying to encourage them to send you referrals?
Yeah, I think that ties directly to content creation and content strategy, being able to come up with some tools and things that you can put in front of them and kind of test to make sure that they're working from that standpoint. So I'm not sure if you have, collateral that's built out, from an agency's perspective, maybe like a parent agency or parent company is pushing materials for you to share from that standpoint. Is that how that works? Okay.
Yeah, yes, I have different agencies I can promote, yes.
Okay, so I think having your understanding, number one, that it's a different type of marketing. So you have your direct to consumer, which is a different message, and then your B2B strategy. And from a B2B perspective, it's critically important to identify what trades you need to be involved in. Like, are there certain conventions or, things from that perspective? I think we're losing some ways that face-to-face kind of connection and referral. And then from there, you're able to kind of expand from there. I think that probably is one of the key recommendations I'd make from a B2B perspective. If you can customize your material that you get or that's shared with you and create a custom strategy for your agency around that content, I think that would be a key differentiator for you. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so Rita, I want to really, again, thank you for, walking us through this marketing section this morning. And if we will have all of the participants, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to her directly. And if we have any in the chat bar, we'll make sure we get those over to you as well.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
So with that, we will transition over to the 10 o'clock to 10:30 space. And we've got National Black member, Charles Kearse, who will lead us through the business development session. Charles?
Good morning. I'm actually, you see my name twice. You see my face because I'm operating two different devices. I'm not in my, I'm in my other office. I'll put it that way. Jose, if you can allow me to share screens, I'll do that. I want to say good morning to everyone and thank you for joining us. I am a member of National Black here in Charlotte. I've been in Charlotte for about 2.5 years. Well, November will be 3 years, so it's coming around real quick. I hail from the wonderful city of Brooklyn, New York. I'm a proud New Yorker, one of those darn Yankees that came down here to the South. But really simply to add value to the conversation, very pleased to see all of you on this Zoom call this morning. I feel almost as a fish out of water because I am that entrepreneur. I have worked corporate, I've worked at nonprofit. Majority of my life has actually been in the nonprofit space as a pastor and a church planter. Planted 4 churches in the Northeast, 2 in Massachusetts, 1 in Connecticut, 1 in New York. Turned entrepreneur because I realized that as a pastor, I certainly can impact people's lives spiritually, and they can go to heaven. But if they ain't got no money in their pocket and we're not doing anything for them economically, we're going to be in a fix, as we are. If you look at the data where African Americans are concerned, we often are on the bottom of list, and I don't like being on the bottom of anybody's list. And so I like being on the top. And so entrepreneurship has afforded me the opportunity not only to gain. I'm still. There we go. You guys see my screen? I think so. There, gain the economic status that we all desire. We all want the same thing, whether you're Black, white, Latino, Asian, doesn't matter. We all want the same thing. I have two beautiful kids that are actually graduates. My son has his graduate degree as well, MBA. He's a marketing strategist out. Well, his company is a multinational out in San Francisco, but he's smart enough to live in Tampa on 2 San Francisco salaries. His wife actually helps to run the foundation out in San Francisco. My daughter is actually finishing up her graduate degree, but she lives in Brooklyn. They were born and raised in Massachusetts. So I run an organization. I'm a partner and run an organization called the Nehemiah Project. It is a part of an ecosystem. You'll hear that word a lot from already from our panelists, but just when you get into entrepreneurship, small business development, it's important that you understand that it operates as an ecosystem. And if you can just picture that Tran company, Ingersoll Ram, and they acquiring companies and then splitting those companies off to be more effective in the marketplace to gain market share, that's what the ecosystem does. There are moving parts to the ecosystem that makes it possible for the ecosystem to work. And oh, by the way, the small businesses that are created by entrepreneurs are the ones that are actually creating more jobs than even the big companies, the large corporate companies. Now, we certainly do need the large corporate companies because then we are able to get those contracts. We can get those tier 1 contracts, those tier 2 contracts. And those tier 2, tier 3 contracts can be very lucrative, and you don't necessarily have to go through the intense bidding processes that are necessary to get them. And I like to say that people will do business based on people they know, they trust, and they like. And so as we talk about operations and business development, really what we want to do is develop a culture, and that culture around your business needs to be engaging. If you are able to engage your community and you're able to build trusted relationships, again, people are going to spend their dollars with people they know, trust, and like. I'm not going to go spend my dollars with someone that doesn't respect me, doesn't like me, that treats me bad. Now, if you do it once, shame on me, right? If you do it twice, if you do it once, shame on you. Do it twice, shame on me. If you do it 3 times, I'm a fool, keep spending my money someplace expecting different results if I'm not astute enough to demand those results. And so as a business owner, it is imperative that you recognize that you can grow any business. Business is not rocket science. Small business entrepreneurship is not rocket science, but it does require you to stretch yourself through educating yourself. I heard one of the gentlemen on the call talk about Michael Gerber. If you are a small business person, Michael Gerber is the guru when it comes down to small business development. I actually personally know him as a friend, and he has challenged me and helped to educate me and mentor me in some of the things that I do and the way that I think as it pertains to small business and the development. So I talked about a little bit who I am. For the most part, I'm just a servant of God, trying to serve in this marketplace space. I'm looking forward to developing relationships with all of you. I run the Charlotte version of the Nehemiah Entrepreneurship Community, e-community we call it. There is a virtual community. We are actually on 5 continents and 38 different countries we operate in. I've planted a flag here in Charlotte to help to create the center or the community whereby we can nurture each other. Because here's one of the things that I've learned over the I don't know, 40 some odd years that I've been doing this, is that entrepreneurship, small business is not a solo sport. It's a team sport. And you need the right people around you. And we have those individuals with the different organizations that are represented here, the accountants, the STEM folk, the NSBE folk, everybody here helps us to understand that we can approach this differently from different angles so that we can conquer the beast and own our space. I want to throw out into your thinking the thoughts, and I know many of you know about Black Wall Street. In fact, there was Black Wall Street in Wilmington, North Carolina, for those of you that are in North Carolina, but I was fortunate enough to go to school in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I went to University of Tulsa, and then I did my Bible school training at Rhema Bible College. And I actually experienced Black Wall Street, of course, after its the massacres and the burnings and what have you. And if you go to Tulsa today, you would see still a decimated community on the north side of Tulsa. Most of the activity and economic development happens on the south side of Tulsa. And of course, now with all the things that's happening with the George Floyd murder and the social justice things, everybody's starting to pay attention. But I want to help you to understand and think about that Black Wall Street was intentional. And what's important is that we are intentional in this space of building successful businesses and helping those businesses to create jobs. And so the Nehemiah Project is very intentional, and we are connected to the church, both the Black church and the white church, right? So I work with, here in Charlotte, I work with Elevation Church, and I work with For Charlotte. For those of you that know anything about Elevation Church, it's one of the largest churches in the country. And For Charlotte is 330 churches, and many of them are well-heeled or wealthy white churches that are looking to work with Black churches in this space. Well, why do I bring up the church? Because again, you do business with people you know, trust, and like. And here's an opportunity. There's an opportunity of a lifetime in Charlotte to build businesses with people that are committed to the same values, Christian values, biblical values that you can hold their feet to the fire on and say, if you really love your neighbor and you love me, then you'll do business and I'll get that contract and I don't have to jump through those hoops simply because we are capable. And I'm going to do like a two-part presentation with my time today. In fact, I'm going to just go to this next slide, and then I'm going to skip over some things where something happened with that slide. I want you to I'm going to skip over some things where my time is concerned, but this is what we call our kingdom business cycle. And this apply whether you are a believer in Christ or you're Muslim, a Jew, it doesn't matter. Your business cycle is your business cycle. And you often start in the area of discovery. You will grow into a startup. Then what's important that you get to that break-even stage. And of course, you get to the profitability stage. Do not get stuck in the profitability stage. Just because you're profitable doesn't mean that you're going to last. And even when you last, we don't want you to stay in the place of profitability, because we want you to be able to get to the next stage, which is actually, excuse me, sustainability. Every business should be striving to get to sustainability, but don't stay there, right? You need to move to scalability. How do you scale your business? And in the instance, you see it all along. And the gentleman that mentioned Michael Gerber is perhaps the guru of scalability in helping businesses to scale and have multiple units. I like to tell people, when you think about business, think in terms of your first unit is your practice. And we've got some healthcare folks on the line. So your first unit is your practice, or lawyers, your practice, or marketing, or whatever you're doing is your practice. You're practicing your systems and your processes. And you're perfecting those so that you can now duplicate those. So you go from 1 unit of anything to 10 units. That becomes your business. When you have 10 units, which means that you can now function that business without you actually having to work in it, but you have created simple systems and processes so that teenagers if you will, can run your business. Think about McDonald's. I'm sitting in Top Golf right now. Top Golf has 70 units around the country, around the world. And those 70 units are really designed to be run by teenagers. Why is that? Because the simple systems and the processes that you labor over in your practice then affords for you the opportunity to hire lower cost labor, not slave labor. You're paying them well, but you don't have to pay someone that's in college, someone that's in high school, the same salary or wage that you're paying someone that has to take care of family of four and put their kids through college. This is a different ballgame. So those simple systems and processes are what you, as the owner of the business and the operator of the business, is working on. You're not working in your business. So many people work in their business rather than working on their business. And we help and train people to make sure that they work on their business. But even before you get to that 10 units, I want you to have an exit strategy. So you see scalability and you see succession. Guys, listen. Ladies and gentlemen, you are going to transition from your business. So you might as well plan your exit. In fact, you should start your business and grow your business with the end in mind. Let's talk about your exit strategy. Most people don't have an exit strategy. I do what I do in my space, not only to startup, help people to discover their startups, their gifts, their talents, but then also we acquire businesses. And I've got 2 businesses right now here in Charlotte that I'm talking to about acquisition. And when you go to talk about the numbers, which you need to understand the numbers, that's why we need to be real good friends with our friends over at the National Black Accountants, right? Because you need to understand your numbers because they tell the story of your business. And if you don't understand your numbers, you cannot exit your business because you don't know what it's worth. You don't know how to position it for the rest of your life and your children's life. Because one of the reasons why you should be motivated to get in business is that you might have an exit strategy that will provide you the opportunity to build legacy wealth, right? It's not just about the wealth that you have or the money that you have. There's a difference between cash flow and wealth that you have, and you're living nice, you're riding nice, you know, you're being taken care of. And I didn't give you this disclaimer. My name is Charles, and I'm your friend. My mission in life is to empower you to win, because I'm going to speak to my corporate brothers and sisters that are probably doing very well. I know that we've got some esteemed colleagues on this line, and they're a part of the ecosystem. What I like about Syreeta is a very accomplished young lady in the space of in the corporate space, but she's also an entrepreneur. And she gets it that you have to build something that you can will to your children. Because guys, those corporate jobs that you have, it may have even made you a corporate millionaire, but you cannot will that to your children. And so I'm going to encourage you, because I'm your friend, right, to start to think about what you can do in your side gig and how we can work together so that you can leverage those relationships and the context that you have on the corporate side, and yet still help to be a part of a economic revival, if you will, where we're building Black Wall Streets throughout America. In every place where gentrification is happening, we're at the table and we're intentional about building or rebuilding the walls of our community, economic walls of our community. And so I'm going to stop there. I had this as a presentation. I was going to give you the 8 principles of developing a growth culture, which will really impact your operations. But I want to go to another presentation if I can, because this is a colleague of mine, and I want to share this with you, the esteemed colleagues that we have on the line. I just realized I need to take the opportunity, and this is a quick pivot, right? And so one of the things that we do in the entrepreneurial space is that we can change on a dime, unlike corporate, not necessarily can change on a dime. So I'm a business trainer and a business coach. And in that, I am the founder of the Urban Impact Movement, which is under the Nehemiah umbrella. I have a company, Urban Impact Industries. We help to start, grow businesses. We find, develop, and deploy leaders, and we're intentional about rebuilding these Black Wall Streets, if you will, and helping businesses grow, because it's not rocket science. If I can do it, you can do it. I grew up in Brooklyn, public school systems, and you know, not the best education. I've always been a C student because I played D1 football. I played football. I was always involved, always working because I come from not, you know, a poor family, single mom. But I realized that I can get things happening. And here's how I realized it. It's simply I do it, right? And by doing it, I realized that my very best friend is momentum. And once I have momentum behind me, you know, am I going to make mistakes? Yes, I learn from mistakes. I fell forward, I fell fast, and I learn from my mistakes, and I keep it moving. I'm not afraid to fail. In fact, I failed miserably after 26 years of pastoring. My marriage failed, and that's my best friend, and one of my best friends in college. We married, have two beautiful kids, and she decided she didn't want to go this crazy entrepreneurial journey with me anymore. She's in academia, and she wanted safe, and I don't play it safe because I'm an entrepreneur. So I have a high tolerance of risk, and not everybody has that. I get that. So everybody may not be an entrepreneur, but you can leverage relationships and monetize your contacts. And so this colleague right here, the author of this book, the book BH365, and I encourage you to Google it. And I'd like to have conversations with all of you about this, because this is a major game changer where African Americans are concerned, and really not just here in America, but the African diaspora abroad, right? This book is changing the game. This book becomes a talking stick whereby we can control the narrative. I'm sorry.
Hey, sorry for interrupting. Are you sharing something? Because we don't see it if you're.
Oh, you don't see my, oh, okay. So let me out. I'm looking at it. Let me make sure. I'm sorry, because this is actually, thank you very much. Hold on. Start sharing the first slide. Is it not up now? Oh, okay. I see what I did. Wait a minute. I stopped sharing. All right. Let me get it back over here. I'm sorry. Thank you. See, we need each other. We are stronger and better together. All right, so let me get back up here to share this slide. All right, so here we go. See, I'm not as proficient without help. There we go. Can you see it now?
Yes.
All right, cool beans. Thank you. Tyrone, was that you that got me? See, man, that's why you the leader, man.
It's all good. Hey, we didn't want to miss this nugget you were sharing with us.
Yeah. So this is a game changer, guys. This book, it's a 5.5 pound Black history book, and its initial offer to the marketplaces in schools, right, from K through grade 16 into college. But when I saw it and got a hold of it and met the authors, in fact, I spent 3 days with Dr. Milton at a golf tournament that I actually encouraged him to be in, and we're getting ready to do a 10 to 12 city tour around the book and around golf. And most of you that know me, you'll know more about what we're doing. But this is an absolute game changer that I'd like to be able to talk to all of you about. It integrates technology. It has over 2,000 QR codes in the book. So therefore, it starts ancient Africa all the way through Canada, and it has all the current events. George Floyd's murder. It has, in the e-version of the book, Kamala Harris being elected vice president. It has all the things that we need to be able to control the narrative where we're concerned. Now, here's why it's important. It's an inclusive account of American history. So it has facts. It helps us to think critically as our education is concerned, as our history is concerned. and then not turn people off, because really what we want to do is be compassionate listeners in the space. And then we want to be fact-oriented conversationalists, because we need to talk about some serious topics where our history is concerned, American history is concerned, right? This book has, and I thought I put a slide, the elephant in the room experience to help people to talk about difficult topics. They have this album, right? It treats each unit of the book where it's a rap album. Dr. Cato is actually Jay-Z's, one of Jay-Z's producers that produced. He's got 30 Grammy Awards. I mean, it's a powerful, powerful tool in the hands of the right people. It becomes what I like to call entrepreneurship is a weapon to even the playing field without killing folk, right? We can't kill folk. We're not going to just go back and take stuff. But if we're as wise as a serpent, as harmless as a dove, we can get the work done that we are in the earth to do. We are alive for such a time as this. Someone said, and I can't think of the author, but the quote, it says, the opportunity of a lifetime lasts the lifetime of the opportunity. So here's what I want to leave with you, right? As we talk about this book. This book has the ability to do, we have an entire professional development. And I know some of you are in the corporate space and you're looking for diversity and inclusion and equity training and opportunities around the book. I'd love to talk to you about that. Love to talk to you about how we're intending to build these Black Wall Streets. There are 3 things that I do as a 60-year-old man that's been in this space for a while. I like to have fun, I like to make money, and I like to make difference. And the folks that are on this call, the folks that are here in Charlotte, the opportunities that are in Charlotte, North Carolina, as we put our hearts and minds together, we are able to make sure that we are impacting this community and building. I just came from Atlanta, and I see, every time I go to Atlanta, I see Charlotte in a few years. Hopefully not as big and congested, but it is certainly, Charlotte is growing. Charlotte is going to continue to grow, and Charlotte is going to continue to be a leader in this space. So I want to offer to all of you, there's my contact information. A free coaching session. I'd love to be able to talk with you. I don't know. Yeah, there's my telephone number as well. There's my website. You can go on and get some information about us. But
we're not saying any of that. So if you would put that on the chat.
Goodness.
And
okay.
Open the floor up right now for any questions that anyone may
have. Okay.
Charles, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now. I'm sorry.
Okay, great. Yeah, I don't know, for some reason my mute button was acting really strange. No, thanks for the overview, Charles. I guess in this space of business development, what do you see as the most common pitfall for us? In our community, I was just thinking about that diagram or picture you showed that showed those different phases. But what do you see as the largest pitfall specifically toward, small Black businesses, and from your experience of being an entrepreneur for a long time, as you described?
So what I see is the biggest pitfall is that there's a miscast and a misunderstanding towards business versus being a technician. A lot of times people get tired of working for the man, and they're going to launch out on their own. And they're great at what they do technically, but they have no real business sense about how to make it work out in the marketplace on the streets. And even if they have the greatest product in the world, oftentimes they don't know how to develop relationships with people to have reoccurring business, because that's the easiest business to have. And so we fail because I believe that we don't study, and we don't allow ourselves to grow ourselves through the information, the books that are out there, because we're so busy. Entrepreneurs, business owners are so busy working in their business as opposed to working on their business. And if they will learn to come away from just that grind mentality and start to work on their business and put simple processes and systems and trust other people, don't dump on other people, but delegate to them, then we can get a lot further up the road.
Yeah, great comment, Charles. Thanks for that. It makes me about, I had a friend who had, done, it was a truck driver, wanted to start his own trucking company. To your point, got tired of the system and wanted to jump out there on his own business and bought a couple of trucks and had a couple of drivers. And I think, you got a certain technical expertise that he had, but the challenge was the other aspects of the marketing development. You can't stay in your space. How do you actually work on that next business contract? How do you keep staying at the forefront of that? And something Syreeta said made me think about the partnerships and knowing your strengths and weaknesses, and develop partnerships in those areas where you may be weak. What do you think about that? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if I were to do my typical presentation, is I talk about the ability to develop a comprehensive vision and a dream, and then to develop the team. So the teamwork makes the dream work. And if you don't have the right people, because you don't know who you are, you don't know what your strengths and weaknesses are, you don't know what the right people to be around you, right? So full disclosure, I actually have recruited Syreeta to be on my team. Why? Because she's a smart, brilliant woman that I've met. Her and her husband's just like, hold on, wait, I need them on my team. So that's what I've been doing here in Charlotte. I've been casting my vision, but building my team, because I'm never going to be the smartest guy in the room, right? I'm smart enough to get in the room with smart people that can do so much more than I can. And I don't have to be fearful. So one of the biggest reasons why entrepreneurs fail is because they're scared. They're full of fear. What's required in order for you to operate in this space, you have to be full of faith, right? And for me, it's faith in God. And then it's also faith in myself, that when I get around individuals like yourselves, that I can have faith in you, that together we can build together. I'm not fearful of my fellow man, right? My fellow ladies. In fact, Black girls rock right now. And I'm trying to get all the Black girls that I can get on my team, right? And so why? Because right now they're leading the way. And so I'm a humble guy. I humble myself so that the systems and the processes and the circumstances don't humble me. And then you learn, and you be hungry for that knowledge, and you learn from everybody, to include your competitors and any people that don't like you, people that don't want you to succeed, because there's a lot of those, there's a lot of haters out there. And then you get into a position where you know that when you put your head on that pillow at night, you did what you said you were going to do where your clients are concerned. And then you start to count your money. I think one of the reasons why we fail in business, Black people fail in business, because we count our money too soon, right? And then we spend our money too soon, right? We want the bling bling. We want to show what we got. No, nobody needs to know what you have until you're able to give greater than you earn. That's the sweet spot, right? Because now you can impact the world for generations to come.
Okay, well, we're going to have to really appreciate you taking the time with us this morning, Charles, and but we're going to have to get ready to transition into the next session. So if anybody's got any other questions, please feel free to get those in the chat room, or he's put his contact information out there as well. And so you can send questions to him directly.
Thank you.
So thanks for that, Charles.
Thank you.
We will now transition into our 10:30 to 11 o'clock space, and that is around virtual business and cybersecurity. And we've got the pleasure of having Wesley Paisley to lead us through that session. So Wesley, I've made you co-host.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Great information. I was just like impressed to the point that I feel like 20 minutes, I could have put more into my slides. So I apologize if it seems like a quick and broad overview. So let me go to share screen. All right, so does everybody see on your screen something that says protecting your business online?
Yes,
And that's all you see, correct?
yes,
Don't see some Coney Island background or anything else?
no,
That's fantastic. I heard someone grew up in Brooklyn, so it's interesting. So protecting your business online, just gonna give a presentation. First off, I'm gonna start with a disclaimer. This presentation is intended for educational purposes only. It does not carry the force of a legal opinion. Any advice is incidental and not to be construed as legal advice to your organization or person. Please consult with an attorney within your local jurisdiction before you take any steps for yourself or company. And save questions for the end. I'm gonna give more time for questions because I realize I actually like an interactive experience. So I'm gonna fly through everything really quickly and try to give you all the ask questions. And you can ask questions that are a little bit off topic to this because I realize this is a presentation to try to make you understand the difference between privacy, cybersecurity, and other areas like trademark. Because I know in the prior presentation, they were talking about trademark and business, and I want you to understand the difference between those areas. Good. Quick bio, I work for the City of New York as a public interest attorney that works on the crosswords of privacy, cybersecurity, and tech. That usually means that I'm working on policies which the City of New York may pass legislation and we're either trying to affect it by working for an elected official, or maybe we're working with an agreement with another vendor, and this is where I have to review it to make sure it protects the interests of New York City. This is very helpful because maybe a few of you might be government contractors and you're wondering like, what should I be concerned about outside of working with just a business to business? And I'll kind of give you a little insight on that, but not too much. Also, my views do not reflect my employer. So do not come back and use this to say this is what the City of New York believes in. That's not the case. In the past, I've worked for a federally qualified health center. I'm not sure if any of you guys work for that area, but that might be helpful regarding HIPAA. I have a master's of science from NYU, a Juris Doctor from New York Law School. And prior to law school, I used to code web pages. Privacy versus cybersecurity. I have something in the chat. This is for me. Oh, great. So privacy versus cybersecurity. Some of you may have seen articles like this, like Alarm.com pays $28 billion to settle TCPA robocall suits. This is an act that regards to regulation of communication for phone calls, robocalls. This is very key because although I was hearing a lot of you guys starting businesses, and the key thing with businesses, at least I remember, was cold calling. And this statute is specifically protecting consumers from getting cold calls when they put themselves on the federal do not register list. The key thing about this case is Alarm did not make those phone calls. They actually hired a subcontractor, but the Federal Trade Commission decided that they had vicarious liability. That means that they had so much control over these subcontractors that they should be held liable. So a lot of times you're going to go out there and you're going to say, I want to call the customers in my area so I can expand my business. And you don't really check to make sure that list is a clean list, a list where people want to be called. Sometimes you get little mistakes. You might call someone, but they'll tell you, don't call me back. And then you could go ask your secretary to actually just write off and cross it off and never call that person again. But if you start calling a lot of people, they'll make complaints to the FTC. FTC, if they see it's a significant number, they'll come after you and they will lay a fine on you. Or some cases, you might be in an election year and a local AG may want to just flex some force and go after you. And a few other companies in the industry that show that they protect the consumers. And I don't want you guys to get in the midst of that type of cycle. Other things to pay attention to is Zoom, $85 million part of class actions. We're on Zoom right now. So you might be thinking to yourself, are these things still ongoing? No, they've been settled. Zoom has put more cybersecurity protections. But the thing is, anybody can be hacked. Anybody can be a victim. And you don't actually need to do the act to be fined or have publicity, bad publicity to your company. So think about this. You're going to hire subcontractors. In the prior presentation, I think what Charles was saying, delegate. When you delegate, try to put some principles and protocols down with these individuals so that they actually follow what you're doing, or at least keep you updated. Just gonna go, there's some privacy, here are some statutes. Some of you may be familiar with them, some of you may not. I'm not gonna go into every one in detail, but I just wanna show you how many privacy statutes there are. And this is what the key aspect, what they protect. I think prior to Charles, there's another presenter who was talking about HIPAA. So I think some of you may actually have companies that work in the health space. And that's very key because once you become a covered entity, which is an entity that's under the Health Insurance Portably Accountable Act, you have to advise under those guidelines. Our Department of Health and Human Services will actually come and audit you. And then if they find that you have not been keeping people's health information secure, protected, or private, you will be kept liable. It could be to $100,000 fine for each violation to something that reaches up into millions, because it could be one violation that was subsequently done for each customer. And it shows that you did not actually put the protections in there to prevent it. So usually a good concept about privacy is that if you look like you're doing your job, like you're putting protocols in it, government agencies won't find you as heavy. They'll actually try to work with you and make a deal because they understand people make mistakes. But when you don't, they're gonna definitely use you as a press release. And you don't want to be a press release. Children's birth dates, our preferences. Some of you might be working in education space, targeting the kids under the age of 13. Try to take as least information as you can. Some of you might be accountants or working in the finance industry. You need to have protocols to protect your customers' information. And then some of you are really big entrepreneurs who are going across the overseas, and you might be getting biometric data. And then you're going to be under the General Data Protection Regulation, which is a UK rule. It's a little controversial right now because there was a European case which said that the United States doesn't have to comply with UK law, European Union laws. However, in order for America to still seem like we're trying to work with the European Union, they're saying that contractually you could still be obligated to do so. It's up in arms right now, but for your own safety, if you end up going and getting a European customer, which I hope you guys are expanding beyond North Carolina, be aware of these regulations. And then there's also just regular invasion of privacy, which is a tort law, which will most likely be in North Carolina or even Virginia, since you guys are very close within state boundaries. So I bring this because I just want to give you a visual of what these laws usually ask. Like HIPAA, we see over the left, we have this nice little form of information that they're gonna ask. Like when you go into a hospital or you go to the doctor, if you look very carefully, you see something that says HIPAA. Now, if you're an online business and you're let's say you want to do maternity care and you're referring to all the maternity care individuals within North Carolina, you may be a covered entity under HIPAA because you might be taking people's personal health information to refer them to a maternity ward, or maybe even you're referring them to another doctor in the community of one that you trust. And because of that, you're going to have to put certain restrictions on your websites to ensure that the information does not get released to other individuals. Or for example, let's say that you start doing business in Virginia and you hit a certain threshold, 250 consumers, and you don't fall under other privacy statutes, you're going to have to comply, and I think 2023, with these provisions, which is have the right to correct personal data. Some of you might be going like, well, this is my data. Why should I delete the data? I work really hard to get my consumer information. It's because you're actually getting information from consumers who are giving it to you as a loan in order to put forward a transaction. You have your data, but you also have to protect their information. And that's how you should see privacy. You're protecting people in your communities information from other people who are bad actors. There's an opt-out process for data, and I apologize for this going a little bit outside the screen. And in other areas, you have to be very transparent with cookies, which you have on your website. So if you're targeting another state and consumer, that means you're going to say that the information collected on the website, meaning that the IP address, sometimes the location of where this computer is. Like right now, my computer is physically located in New York. When I go to your website for your cake shop, you'll see that Wesley visited with this location. That's an IP, that'll give you IP address. That's information. It's helpful for you as a business, but maybe some consumers don't want you to know about that information. Contractual terms. Again, look for who owns the data, who are their subcontractors, and who is my customer. If I'm just dealing with cake customers, selling them goods and bakeries, baked goods within North Carolina, I don't really need to know too much in who's monitoring my website, the vendor who is setting up my advertising, because I'm only going to be within North Carolina. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't think North Carolina has any serious local consumer data protection laws. They have overall data protection laws, because I remember I was reviewing the statutes, and if you put false information, the state attorney general will intercede. But the other key thing is, you also don't want another organization taking your data. You don't want someone who is essentially, for example, like let's say you're working with, you're providing internet service for the local community, and you're doing it to a sensitive population. That population might not have, you don't want the information out sent there. So you should be very careful what you collect. Don't ask questions like, have you been incarcerated? Because once you collect that, that's stored in your data. And then a certain party might be able to see that data. For example, under the Patriot Act, the Federal Bureau of Investigation was able to reach out to internet and connected internet companies and financial institutions to seek certain data without really much oversight from the courts. And that information that you collect in your honest belief may become susceptible to those actors, and that may not be in the best interest of your consumers. So when you're collecting data, try to remember of, what do I really need to make my business run? What do I need to make my customers do well? And what do I need not to take so that it becomes a liability for me further down the line? Again, if you're a government contractor, you might have other contractor obligations. So you may have to apply with the federal government's obligations for protecting data. So so when you're going to do a RFF or kind of a request for a project proposal, you should be very questioning, like, what do I need to do in order to get this contract? Because it might actually be more expensive than the grant money that the government is going to give you. Again, this is more something that I want you to understand. Privacy is not confidential or private information. That's a trade secret. An algorithm or method that formulates other documents efficiently, patents, unpublished creative character, your stories, your articles, everything, that's copyright. And then misuse of your mark, that's trademark. Never confuse those things with your consumer's information. You might think, whoa, wait. I have a whole consumer base of all the best talented Black graphic designers in South Carolina. Yes, you could keep that database, but you might also have their social security numbers because maybe you did a certain deal with them. You were accounting for them. That information you can't trade, because that could end up having a whole slew of lawsuits. So understand what is your trade secret and what is the consumer's personal information. And this is just a quick little graphic. It's a little wonky, my apologies. Privacy encryption. I'm just gonna quickly show you how some encryption does. Very basic, just fun animation I wanted to do to break it up. Anika sending an email to Zaire. Data gets sent over the network. all of a sudden it's intercepted by a malicious actor. It's being hacked. And so information is, now it's out there in the world. It could be a secure number, it could be information, customer list, whatever. Danica learns her lesson. She tries to do something different next time. She sends the same information, but what she does is she puts it in a kind of a Zaire's public key. It's all encrypted. So when the actor goes, now they can't even understand it. They could still intercept it because it's being sent. But Anika and Zaire have agreed to exchange a form of code so that no one else can see their information. And that's a basic concept of encryption, very basic. But I just wanted to give you guys a fun animation. This is very essential because sometimes you may have to send personal information to your customer or even to another business. And you think, I'm just gonna email them with my customer's name and their social security numbers on there. I trust Bill. But what you don't understand is in between you and Bill is Christopher. And Christopher is a malicious actor who will take that information and use that to create loans and other information. And that actually depowers the Black community. Because imagine an individual who's kind of like, doing well, making some money, finally making purchases, participating in the community economically, and then they get attacked. Now they get below the line. That means you've lost a customer because you didn't take the time to actually protect that data. Best practices: do not send anything over email that you would not want others to have access to. You must send over secure email that you have paid for. And I'm gonna skip a few slides because I want to give more time for questions. Quick question: which purchase would you purchase from a store on the left or from the right? And if you guys could, my only interaction right now is you could just raise your left hand or your right hand to tell me where would you purchase from, the store on the left or the right? Okay, all right, yeah. Well, that's cybersecurity right there. Your consumer wants to purchase stuff from a very safe and secure site where they know their data is not going to be stolen. So what they require, protocols to maintaining electronic health records. The Graham-Leach-Filey Act requires financial institutions to have cybersecurity protocols for the accountants. There's also the FCRA, which is the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and the Fair Debt Practicing Act. So essentially, you may get calls from debt collectors, and they give you like, "Hey, you owe $250,000." You go like, "No, I don't." That's what that act protects, from protecting someone who's got the wrong information, is trying to harass you for the money. And then there's other things like New York Shield Act. You're like, "I'm not in New York. I'm in North Carolina. I'm in Virginia." Well, your customers in New York, where I am, you have to comply with this act, and you have to protect their information. I love New York. How to protect yourself and your business. I'm gonna answer questions on that. Cybersecurity insurance, do you really need it? That depends on basically what you have, what information that you have in your business. Do you, essentially like life insurance and other insurances like car insurance and so on. Some is required by law and contracts, but it depends on what you feel is necessary. And I actually want to have a discussion about that because I feel that some people get it unnecessarily, and I think some people don't get it when they really need it. And here are some resources. Oh, did not click on that. Q&A. Okay, I would like to have some questions. If anybody has any questions.
Wesley, this is absolutely great. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking about my business, and I mean, haven't even thought about it in these terms, but it's also scary in terms of folks that are starting their own business or in business and haven't even thought about this aspect of it. What do I need to be doing next to make sure that I'm covered, that my business is covered?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about cybersecurity insurance. And the thing is, if you have can you just describe how large your business is so I could just, I didn't get your name.
I didn't hear the question.
How large is your business? Like, what is your reach? Just basic description, or what is the nature of your business?
Small consulting firm.
Okay, so small consulting firm. You're going to be reaching out to various small businesses, B2B. you may not need cybersecurity insurance because really you're just giving them consultation where you guys meet in person or over the phone or Zoom. However, the moment you start doing a certain industry like healthcare, and maybe they might ask you like, well, I need you to review my health records. I need you to be an auditor of my information. That's when you might need cybersecurity insurance, because now they might bring you in as a covered entity, and now you have to act as though you're a proprietor of their health information. You have to protect it. And so you're going to need cybersecurity insurance, so in case you get hacked, that information will essentially come in, and that will just leave you liable as well as your customer. And you don't want your customer to be liable because of your mistake as a downstream subcontractor. But generally for consulting businesses, you don't need cybersecurity insurance unless you have a database that's purely online, and you're going to get attacked and you potentially get attacked by ransomware, and now that could cripple your industry. So that means, like, let's say you have all online, you have nothing backed up, and then you get a ransomware attack. The cyber insurance will give you a fund for how much of what you've lost in your data. So it's a trade-off. Do I have ability to secure my information of an attack? Like I have it somewhere on a computer separate from the internet that won't be infected? Then you don't need cybersecurity insurance. If I'm not dealing with a certain type of business that needs information protected, you don't need it. But once you get into that business, or work with that business, I should say, then you will need it. And if say you mostly have stuff online and you have like about $1 million in assets, then the insurance works out.
Thanks for that explanation.
Thank you.
Hi, Wesley, it's Natasha. I just wanted to say thanks again. Hey, I also had some questions. So how important is it for small businesses to have a budget for something like this so that they can make sure it's something they invest in? I always recommend that it's necessary to have a good lawyer, good accountant, but also a good IT person or someone to help you navigate these things. Can you talk about that too? And sometimes you don't always have to pay a fee, which is we have a free legal services section later on in the programming, but talk about the importance of adding this to your infrastructure, so to speak.
Yeah, no, this is very essential because, for example, when you start a business, you're saying it's just me and maybe my family members or a partner, and you have a service or you're providing a good. After a while, you're going to reach a significant mass of consumers and you're going to delegate. Well, who do you delegate? You delegate to marketing, you delegate to sales, but you also delegate protecting of your assets. A lot of people are like, well, why do I need to protect my assets? Because there are other competitors who do not follow best guidelines and follow the law. So they'll actually maybe hire another hacker to go and get information. They'll actually do something which is very a low bar that people don't think about, which is social engineering. That means that someone calls you and tries to solicit information from you in order to get information. And this is where you need a good and trustworthy accountant and IT person. Someone who, when you're working with them, ask them like, who are your other customers? What do you do if another customer asks you for information on another customer? Are you the type of person that tells them that information? And two, what happens when your website is down? Will you notify me 24 hours? So another thing I didn't mention was denial of service attack. And this is essentially when you get flooded with so much traffic to your website, it just crashes and no one can go to your website to buy products or services. That's a good thing because it means you're so popular, but sometimes it could be done intentionally for malicious behavior. And that's when you need a proper IT individual who understands your business model and understands to say like, all right, if your website gets down, I will create a subdomain and I'll redirect it to that subdomain so that you could still get some traffic and some customers, but it's not the same. It's like a spare wheel of a car. You know, you're driving around, you get a flat, you change a tire, you put this tiny little tire on there, but you're able to keep going. And that's what your IT person is supposed to be. It's supposed to give you the 4 wheels and a spare tire in case you get attacked. And for legal services, don't wait until you get sued. It's really bad. And don't just talk to your attorney about cybersecurity. Talk to them about wills. There's so many people have these businesses and they're always like, oh, I have a legacy for my son or daughter. But you got to understand, if your business is going to the next and there's going to be overhead taxes, funds, and so on, and liabilities, and you want to be able to shield your children from that. And and that's what the will is going to essentially help them out with. I just had to go on my soapbox for that. My apologies.
No, just hey, this is Marvin Brooks here in
Marvin.
Charlotte as well. Just as a cybersecurity professional myself, just want to kind of add to the conversation. Just understanding that that we are all, even though we're entrepreneurs, we're also consumers as well. So one of the biggest things that I always tell people is that you just have to take due care as far as protecting your stuff. So, just as an example for myself, I had an accountant that's had done work with me for several years, but 2019, just because he had old equipment, didn't have proper antivirus, I was a victim of identity theft and IRS violations and things like that. So just understanding that you just have to take the proper methods to just make sure you have simple stuff in place, like good antivirus, the machinery and computers and things that you use are all up to date and still supported, that you're still not using like Windows XP or something that Microsoft no longer even supports or provides patches for. Just simple stuff like that can save you a ton of headaches in the long run. Because people, as business owners, we certainly penny pinch and manage everything down to the cent. But stuff, just make sure that you pay for good antivirus, that you pay for good internet, things like that, just to make sure that, first of all, that you do have some line of defense in place for your information. Because the one thing I've been in IT and cybersecurity for a number of years now, but the one thing that's very true in every situation is that somebody's always knocking on the door. So you just have to make sure that there are some methods and procedures in place to keep that door closed for as long as possible. And that's and that's and that's just in general your starting point. And then from that point, if you need firewalls or you need some additional IT equipment, bring in some professionals. But yeah, just especially if you guys, independent consultants, you working by yourself, you have, a couple, small employees, you got a home-based business, just make sure that you have those kind of things in place first and foremost before you start trend, because there's really not anything that you can do right now that doesn't involve any online. You have to do something online for pretty much every business nowadays. So just having those kind of things in place, I think, is the best advice I can give anybody that's starting a business.
Thanks for that, Marvin. Thanks for that addition, and Wesley for leading us through this session. We're going to have to transition to the next session, but is it okay for folks to send you questions directly?
Is it possible that they could send it through DIT instead? Only reason because I'm a public employee and I don't want to just have direct questions. It might end up, conflict my job. So if send it, Natasha, would they be able to send it to you? And then after that, I could just give general answers and resources? Perfect. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. So with that, we will transition into the 11 o'clock space with Smart Business Accounting with Luisa Pino. Will be leading us through that session.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So I am so honored to be here. I just want to make sure that I'm able to share my screen properly. So give me one. What was that?
I've made you the co-host.
Okay, great. So just go that. Not that.
We see your screen.
Let me see 1 second. I am just. Sorry about that, guys. Give me 1 second. Let's see. Can you see my presentation right now?
Yes,
Okay, it's just one screen, right?
yes.
Great. So I'm sorry about that. So once again, I am so happy to be here, and I will be presenting the business accounting best practices. Once again, my name is Luisa Pino, and I am a CPA here in the Charlotte area. I actually own the boutique firm Pino CPA, and I am a member of NABA, and I used to be a president when I was in school and involved when I was in big accounting firms. So this is so much fun for me to do so. So without further ado, let me tell you a little bit more about myself. Oh, let me go a little bit about me. So like I say, I have about more than 12 years of big four accounting experience. Within that time frame, I also have now 16 going on 17 years of tax experience. I'm licensed with the state of North and South Carolina. And I'm also a business owner, of course, not only this one, but another business ventures that I do have. And my passion really relies on startups and small businesses. For some reason, I just have a soft spot for those particular enterprises. And I really and truly love working with business owners, with startups, listening to ideas. And I feel like it just kind of hit that particular nerve when it really gets me started and happy about to be able to do it. So that's what I have there. So I guess I want to make this section a little bit more interactive. And I want to hear, before I continue to the next slide, why is it accounting important for startups? And I like to hear on the chat, maybe if you can give me ideas as to why do you think that this particular aspect of your business is important? I heard the IRS deals with money. Maybe one or two more people. Those are big aspects. Let's see, no accounting plans lead to failure. This is information that customers have. Knowing where your money is going. Great. So that's kind of what I was expecting to hear. Measure success, correct? So all of these aspects are specific to this. So this is good to know, and being able to understand at least why am I hearing this and why do I need to know about accounting and this is just sounds like something administrative, and you won't believe the stories that I hear now that I'm dealing with small businesses run by family members, and the stories and the actual facts that I continue to find. And I'm just terrified, to say, for lack of another word, especially just previous months when we were talking about all these SBAs, loans and PPPs and all that. And the lack of knowledge and awareness of how important having good records was unbelievable. And sometimes I'm at a loss. I basically don't know what else to do. That was not the answer that I gave, but that's something that I feel comfortable sharing here, because it's for you who are attending here to understand that was in the back of my mind. And I try to help as much as possible, but there were instances in which I literally had to, in some of another way, direct the person to basically find another way for us to get the records, because it was just unbelievable, a disaster, just to call it that way. Not negative, I'm not talking negative about it. I'm just using this as an opportunity to warn you that it is extremely important to have good records and to have and understand that accounting is important. I guess that's the biggest thing here. So it is important because having your business structure, you need to avoid commingling bank accounts. You have to have a software for this, and you have to have, you know, of course, bookkeeping, that's where we come. So it's not the regular bookkeeping as it used to be in the past, the 4-column journal entries. It's about understanding really and truly how to sync all of your actual systems together. Includes, as you were saying, you know, the whole IT security and having all measures in place that allow for your accounting system to communicate with the other system. And I used to hear all this saying all the time, that accounting was the ears and the eyes of the business. And I was like, that's just a selling point for me to go into accounting major. Like, why do I need to know that? Because I didn't start as an accounting. I was in finance and economics, and finally end up with accounting. But basically, I'm glad that I did. So just, if I'm going too fast, let me know, because I'm just passionate about it. And if you have any questions in between, please feel free to stop me and to make sure that we make this a little bit more interactive and that we can actually get some practical knowledge out of this presentation. Because I mean, you can Google this, but that's not the point. The point is for you to have someone who has, I got my boots on the ground and I'm seeing things that I never was able to see when I was back in public accounting working for the Big Fours, because we don't see that. People who work in big corporations and who have the financial capital to pay for professionals doing this, normally I don't see the errors and the challenges that small businesses like the one that you may have faced on a day-to-day basis. So it was very interesting for me to come to terms that things that I took for granted that were basically perfect no longer exist in this new world. But that's what fascinates me the most, actually. So like I say, just questions along the way are more than welcome, and I will be more than happy to answer them as we go along. So I've looked this between what I found, what I have, and what I face, and I came out with 10 small business accounting practices to consider. And the first one, and I'll go a little bit, about 2 minutes or so, or less than that, to keep my time under 30 on these particular topics. But the main reason why I wanted to reiterate on those is because that gives me the foundation as to why and how those particular principles interact with the business. And before I move on, let me make sure I think I skipped one, and that's what's making this a little bit hard. So I skip a slide, and then I realized that this is what ties into the next one. And the biggest thing about having a business plan, as we all know, is making sure that the goals that we put together for our actual business plan are SMART. SMART, we probably are all familiar with the whole acronym of a specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. And this is extremely important when it comes to accounting, because you have to know where you're heading. You have to have a specific point of where you're going to when it comes to accounting, period. There is no in between, there is no gray area. You have to at least know specifically, as much as I can say, that where you're heading to. And I guess the bottom line is, are you making money? And that had to be a goal. Like, if you are not in business for, if you are in for profit, if you are non-profit, that's a whole different story. But if you are in business, in regular business, you are in to make money, period. Call it another way, call it, I want to get financial independence, I want to be wealthy. You want to make money, period. Like, no one gets into any type of entrepreneurial venture just for the fun of it, unless it is, once again, no, for profit. And that's a whole different discussion. And even then, you do have a specific goal when it comes to finances. You want the nonprofit to be successful, to be able to attain the goals that it has as a community, as what is your specific point of view, what are you trying to do? So that's kind of what all this ties in together. So you have to be measurable. I have to know how much sales do I have to have in a particular period to attain the bottom line that I'm looking forward to having. It have to be attainable. Like, I had to be able to determine whether or not the capacity, the capital investment, the social capital that I have, the resources that are available to me would allow me to get there. And that ties into being realistic. Like, I cannot come in, and I put myself as an example. I cannot come in right now and determine that just because I had the experience and I have goals and I can do those goals, I can compete with a Big Four accounting firm. That's unrealistic. It is making sure that you understand where do you stand and what are your actual strengths. And that goes into the whole SWOT analysis that we can talk about in another section, but it's more about understanding where you are and where you're heading to. And that includes the accounting part of it. And of course, timely, you need to know on a time basis, where do you go from here to there? Like it had to go, okay, from quarter one or from month one or from year one, where do I want to go? And what does accounting takes me to? And having a good accounting system allow me to have that. So we just answered this question, and we tie into, it is important to have a business structure. You have to avoid at all costs mixing your personal finances with your business. And I tell this to my clients as soon as I help them, once they have opened up their companies or once they have started, I say the first thing that you really need to do after you get that EIN number, you need to get a bank account that is separate from your personal one. Because if there is something that the IRS truly dislikes, is having to go into your personal account to kind of like determine what was business and what was personal. And making sure that you choose a software that you can handle, or if not, you're going to have to hire professional help. And I put bookkeeping in capital letters because it is important. Even if it is at the beginning, just having an Excel spreadsheet, it's not the most safe way to go. But if you have to go that way for a couple of months until you can get off the ground, so be it. But make sure that you do keep records. That's the bottom line of this practice, because I'm not trying to be unaware of the situation that when we start up, we don't have the resources sometimes to pay all the help that we need to. We should make this a priority. And I'll talk about that later on from my presentation, but we need to start. And accounting does not start when you open the bank account, because before you even do that, you potentially already pay to the Secretary of State of the actual state that you live in to open your business up, your LLC or your C Corp or your S Corp or your partnership, whatever business structure you have selected to go in business as of, you already pay for those fees. So if you think about it, your accounting does not start the day that you open up the doors. That was way before then. So having good record keepings when you first start thinking about your business is essential to having, being able to at least get off the ground on the right foot. So, and this is basically the meat, what I call the actual thick of the presentation. Are there any questions so far? Let me go into the chat. Let's see if anyone has any questions so far. Am I seeing? I am not seeing any.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get off mute.
Yes.
Are we okay?
What was that?
All right, yeah, problems on my end. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Hey, yeah, I do have a question for you. When it comes to, you mentioned the importance of having separating account and business account, how critical that is. But how do you treat, if you, I guess, funding, if you wanted to invest in your business, let's say you wanted to, move some money from your personal account to your business account, is that considered a loan, or how exactly does that work? Can you just give money to your business account?
Okay.
Is why I'm asking the question.
It's considered what you, there are a couple options for you to consider that. Like, and this goes down to what am I doing, right, Tyrone? Like, am I creating, of course, you have to start with something, and you have to start with some funds that may be personal at first, or may have been a loan from the bank. If you are financially trustworthy enough for a bank to give you a business just to start, there are cases because you have other ventures. But to answer your question is, yes, at the beginning, the money at first is yours. So you take, I'm gonna make an example, $5,000, and you move from your personal checking to your business advantage or whatever. I don't want to sell a product because I don't work for any of the banks. I just kind of like see it. So you move into your business advantage, free business, whatever account you may have had. That right there is your, depending on what you have selected, is quote unquote your capital contribution to the business. And that would be another discussion to have on whether or not you're gonna go, if you're talking about loan to the business, and then are we talking about shareholders, and are we doing an S corp, and therefore it's not necessarily a contribution but a loan to it, that will determine the way that we will distribute capital, or the way that we will take money out of the business to make it in, you know, more like common terms. But once again, that's a great question. It just leads into too much. But the biggest question here is, once you move it, you have to allocate it correctly. What I'm saying is you should have a bucket put together and then say, I'm gonna take from here to the business. And then once you have the business, make sure, what I'm getting at it is, once you have your business, or once you have started doing business expenses, don't go out and try going to Target and doing grocery shopping on the same account. I guess that's what I'm getting at. You know, at first it's unrealistic to think that everyone is going to start and make a capital contribution and make it straight, because once again, I'm dealing with the real stuff. I'm dealing with not the book text. I'm dealing with the person who all of a sudden didn't even realize that they had a profitable business going this route, and now we have to separate everything out because, you know, it might have been she was just selling Herbalife or Avon, and all of a sudden she also is into like Amazon retail and having an online account that, I mean, an online retail account that now we need to separate it out. So it becomes more of a practical matter, but we need to have those principles put together before we even go into it. So so that's a great question. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Are you good with the answer?
Yeah, I sure am. Thanks.
Okay. Are there any other questions that I could address at this particular point in time? See any more? So I am going to continue to move forward and move into what really and truly all this means, and determine your accounting method. And this is very interesting because most people don't know that, you know, the accrual method is also available for small businesses. And most, to be honest with you, most small businesses do go into the cash method because most people do start with what is called the LLC, and then they are just going to file a Schedule C. So it's kind of hard to have your Schedule C on accrual if you're filing on an actual cash basis. It's not necessarily forgiven, but it's actually more practical to do it that way, if that makes sense. The next one, like I say, is tracking all of your expenses. And when I mean all, I mean them all. And that will require at some point personal too, because when you start your business, something that was previously personal now really and truly may become business. And I give you the easiest example that I have at hand with me, like your computer. Most people don't go out and buy a computer to start a business. Most people go and start with the laptop that they already have at hand and work with that to actually get it to be the main tool that they use to do business with. And that's just so happened to be the case. So now the software that you were paying, the antivirus that you were paying, or the Microsoft suites that you were using, or all of that particular expenses are no longer personal, if you think about it, because now they are what you are using to do business with. So when I mean track all your expenses, I mean track all of your expenses. That does not include, and this is gonna sound funny, any legal advices that you have. I don't need to know about that, like, or any other things that you know for sure are not going to be part of your business, like, you know. But even if you go drinking out with a potential client In the past, we used to have what is called entertainment expenses. So I tell people, once you get in business at the beginning, we're going to have to make sure that we know every single penny of what you are using, what is it going to. And once again, that ties into maintaining accurate records of that. So no longer trying to avoid as much as possible paying with cash. Cash is untraceable. And for some reason, you know, when you start doing business, it's not the most secure way to do it either. There are certain things that you do have to pay cash, and I do get that. Getting a receipt, yes, but then I also have to do what is called the 3-point, and then I have to figure out that you really and truly were the rightful owner of that money. And this all ties in because of my auditor background that I have to, I tell my clients, I say, when I do a tax return, normally I take an actual approach of an auditor because I want to make sure that I'm able to sustain every single expense that you are claiming. And if you are not able to do that at the time of filing, I am afraid that 3 years down the road, if you ever get pulled by the IRS, how are we going to prove that? So I'm not signing that return. So I always tell them we have to make sure that the records are accurate from the get-go. And to stress once again, keep business finances separate from the personal, period. Separate in the sense that we are able to determine what is what. If you go to Walmart and buy groceries, but you also buy some containers, some files, you know, things that you buy at Walmart that are really business related. Or if your business happen to be one of those that actually get supplies out of Walmart, like I have clients who have food trucks and restaurants, well, they get some of their actual supplies and actual some of the cost of goods sold come out of Walmart. So the Walmart receipt to them actually is part of a business expense. So I tell them, I mean, if you're getting a couple of things for the house in there, we have to be careful not to commingle, make sure that you pay with the business credit card or with the business account, and that will make things more traceable for me and less of a headache when I'm doing the tax return or when I'm actually reconciling your books at the end of the month. Perform monthly accounting reviews. And what I mean by that is, I'm not saying that every single month you have to provide a profit loss and a balance sheet. What I'm saying is you need to look at your finances on a monthly basis, on a regular basis, because you need to understand where are you going with this. The next one is making sure that you limit your account receivables and interesting enough. When I was preparing for this presentation a couple of days ago, and this morning when I was wrapping it up, I made a note to myself to make sure that I account for all of my invoices out, because like I said, is as a business owner, those are things that you have to keep in mind. And that's one of the things that, because of my clients kind of pay me upfront sometimes, or I have them on a recurring basis, I don't have to think about that. But some projects that I've done for the last couple of weeks, I haven't gotten paid, and I'm like, oh, I guess this applies to me as well. So that was kind of interesting. Make sure that you use technology as much as possible. That means using apps that can actually track expenses. That means using your phone, your computer, your calendar, and everything. Make sure that you cannot have a system that ties into your accounting software as well. And that way everything is in one place. I'm not here to sell any of the softwares because I don't get paid for that. But most of the small businesses softwares out there do provide the opportunity to add apps to the suite so that you can use those apps to better track your actual business financial wealth on that. And backup financial records. You will not believe how important this is in this day and age. Having the cloud, yes, but having also some sort of physical records, external drive, things like that. I was in the middle of tax season and one of my main computers, the one that serves as an actual server, crashed like 2 weeks before the first deadline. I was so happy that I have listened to my IT professional, and he said, make sure that we are back in this app all the time, because all it cost me was about 1 or 2 hours of it getting back into it. We got the computer, and we ran to I think it was eBay. We Best Buy and got a new computer. In less than 2-3 hours, we were up and running. But it was because we had backup financial records. And one that I do have here is do not give up. Please do not give up. Record keeping is tedious. It is not necessarily the most fun thing to do because you're not in the business of record keeping. That's why you went into other business ventures, but do not give up. You have to do it. And the 10th one is consider hiring a professional help. Most of us are here in the business of accounting, tax, small business advisory. We tend to be pretty affordable when you put together the value that we bring to the business. And what we can keep you out of trouble too is very valuable. And it's not fun having to call us once the IRS is already knocking on your door, or when you're trying to obtain a financial product like a loan, a small business loan, and they say you don't have financials together. Or when all these opportunities like the SBA came up with, PPP, emergency loan, and you have no taxes filed, no records to be shown, so on and so forth. So trust me, most of us are able to actually pay our fees with the value that we bring to your business. So it's very important that you do hire someone who's professional in the matter, not only because the value is right there, but also to keep you out of trouble. And I'm really serious about that one. So
Syreeta, do we have time for maybe taking a couple of questions?
Yes, I do. I'm about to wrap it up. So just to wrap up, you have, some common issues is the lack of foundational knowledge, not having a budget and not controlling your budget, not having, like I said, not having a good accounting software, combining your bank accounts, not filing tax returns, and not having professional help. And I'm putting here some resources that you can use to kind of get yourself together when it comes to understanding some basic terminology and some concepts that you can use to run your business. So this will be available if you like to. And my final thoughts before I take the questions is make sure that you get very cautious about market conditions. Keep in mind that your unique situation can create unforeseeable problems, things that you wouldn't even think about it. And keep accounting problems tend to lead to a lot of issues, tax, legal, financial, I mean, you name it. And my final thought is a healthy business requires that accounting challenges are addressed effectively from the very beginning, the very genesis of your enterprise. And I'd like to open the floor for the last 2 minutes of questions.
Well, I'll just like to say thank you so much, Luisa, for doing this for us. And I have a question that I would like to pose to you. I think when we have our small businesses, one of the things that we typically forget to do is add ourselves to the payroll, right? And so we tend to not do that. And so like you said, moving funds from your bank account just to your personal account is most certainly a no-no. So what is some advice you would have for small businesses in regards to making sure they pay themselves and their employees?
That is an absolute great question, Yolanda, and I'm right on point, and I love that you asked that because it's so in front of me that I can actually, go into it. Yes, the biggest thing is make sure that you pay yourself. How do you pay yourself? That's the question. And you have to determine whether or not your business is profitable enough for you to pay yourself. Because at the beginning, you are more likely not making money or you are breaking even. And that break-even point may imply that you're not getting paid seriously. And also classifying, that brought me into a point that I'm having a lot of issues with small businesses. It's called the misclassification of help. Lots of people are going into using 1099s in some way or another way to their minds to save on taxes, on payroll taxes, when in fact those particular associates should be on payroll. And that's very important. So we having a lot of audits coming down on that, workers' compensation audits coming on that, and things of that nature. So to answer your point is make sure that you do have the resources to pay yourself if you do, and make sure that if you have the right entity. One thing that I need to stress out before I get caught up. If you do have an LLC and this LLC is not separated from you, you don't have it as an Inc., you don't have it as an S Corp, you cannot be on payroll of your own LLC, period. That's illegal. If you haven't classified for something else, and you won't believe how many cases I have in front of me because of that. You have to have the right structure if you're trying to be. There's nothing wrong with being an employee of your own company if you have your company set up in the right structure.
Okay, great. Thanks, Luisa, for leading us through this. Is it okay if folks have other questions that they're able to send them to you directly?
Please do so. I'll be more than happy to actually answer those so that we can give
Put their contact information in the chat bar. That would be great.
Yes, sure. I'm putting that in there.
Okay. So we're now at the 11:30 session, and that will be on access to capital. That will be led by Dr. Shante Williams.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello.
I'm going to share my screen because true to nature, I have lots of information to try and get through. Let's see. Is everybody seeing my screen?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Awesome. Let's get it in presentation mode. There we go. All right, access to, it was called access to capital. I'm a big proponent of deployment of capital because frankly, access to capital is kind of a misnomer now. We all know where the money is, it's everywhere. But until we can get the money out of the other places and into our businesses, we know that that capital doesn't mean very much if we just know where it is. So today I'm really gonna focus on how do we get the money into your hands, no matter what entrepreneurial stage you're in. So who am I? So I'm a venture capitalist. Some people call me a venture capitalist. I'm the CEO of Black Pearl Global Investments, which is a healthcare investment firm that invests in Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean. We help grow and build companies where they are, help them become economic engines, and then we help them become venture fundable or backable and deploy them into other markets, including the United States. We have 2 headquarters now, one in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the other is in Kingston, Jamaica. We have employees around the globe at this point. We just hired an employee in Ghana, so I'm super excited to be doing what I'm doing. I'm also a general partner in a venture fund, a social impact venture fund called Equilibrium Impact Investments. And we invest in the social determinants of health. We hope to close that $5 million round at the end of this year in order to start investing in people of color, women, and other people and other businesses that are serving health disparities, environmental disparities. We are going to be focused on anything that increases our quality of life. I am a 3-time business owner. I have a failed business. I've had 1 business acquired, and I am currently growing at least 1 more. I actually launched another, that's a fintech company, so I guess I should change this to 4-time. I act as an angel and private investor. I advise lots and lots of companies. I invest in companies across the board. I've written a couple of books, but frankly, I call myself, and I'm most proud of, being a capital activist. What is a capital activist? Is a term I made up, so I'll define it. It means that I focus on getting money into the hands of the businesses or the people who can do the most good. So whether we're talking about lending, or we're talking about venture capital, or private equity, or angel investing, my focus is getting the money out and deployed. Okay. So from this short talk, I'd like to give you a couple of key learnings and takeaways. I want you to walk away knowing when you should seek funding. I want you to get into the mind of being a funder. I want you to be able to identify the various types of funding. Please be able to properly identify your business type and your capital needs, and identify the appropriate funding type for your capital needs. That is a lot, I know, but we will get through it, I promise. So, what is the mind of a funder? I told you this is the one that I really think people lose track of because they get bogged down in all the specifics. Every funder, no matter who they are, whether it's a bank or an angel investor, somebody in VC space, they all have money on their mind. They want to know, how am I going to get my money back? If it's a bank, they want to know that if I extend this loan, are you going to be able to service the loan? Meaning, are you going to be able to pay it back? If you are looking at an angel investor, they want to know the same thing. If you're talking to a VC, they want their money back plus a lot, right? So this is the simplest takeaway. always focus, if you are trying to get capital in, the first thing you should be able to tell anybody you're asking for money is, how am I going to pay you back and when? Okay. Next, when should I seek funding? Again, key takeaway. Any guesses on when you should be seeking funding? Anybody?
When you don't need it.
Woo! Marvin, yes.
Yep.
I will tell you, seek funding way before you need it. And I do mean way before you need it. Ultimately, what make sure is when you're asking for money, when you are, thinking about what your needs might be, you gotta ask for it way before you need it. If you wait until you have that capital crunch, I can promise you, you have very few friends in the world. And if you find somebody who does want to give you money, it's gonna cost you a lot. So always seek money way before you need it. This is one of those takeaways that never seems to get quite into people's brains, because people always come to me after they have an order placed and they need it in 3 days, which is not how anybody works. So remember to seek money way before you need it. All right. Business stage. Okay, so I'm going to break this into a couple of different categories for businesses and business owners. So let's start with our side hustlers, those people who are still fully employed and doing something on the side. Maybe they haven't decided if they're going to fully take the leap. Maybe this is just extra income. But I love side hustlers, but I tell them all the time, we just came out of an accounting session where she talked about not commingling funds. If you're a side hustler or someone who's building your business in the evenings while you have a 9 to 5, make sure you are keeping things separate. That is a great takeaway from the last talk. And I will tell you, if you are in this situation where you're fully employed, yes, start the business, structure the company properly, not just file an LLC, not just do that. You really need to think this is a whole business. If you wanted to convert to being a business, do so. Now, before you take the leap, plan. Have an actual business plan, right? Fully test your concept while you're still fully employed and build traction as early as you can. If we want to talk about how do we get money into our side hustles, you want people to know that you can actually sell the thing you're talking about, okay? Now, I tell people this, and I don't do credit repair or anything like that, but if you are still fully employed and you plan on business or you're going to be seeking capital, fix your credit, okay? You want to be able to go to your bank or a banker and your credit isn't completely a mess, okay? I will also tell you, grabbing that capital, remember, seek capital way before you need it. So if you are still fully employed, make sure you have maybe some credit cards in the business name. Maybe you have some lines of credit. Why is it important to do that while you're still fully employed? Because you actually have money coming in. So it's almost like kind of now, remember, if you get that line of credit for the business, don't necessarily spend it. Don't necessarily go out and think, okay, now I can, go rent out a building unless you really need to. Make sure you just are building those cash reserves. Okay. I tell people to save. I will say my first business, when I started it, I absolutely saved. I was somewhere in the arena of about $20,000 some odd. And I thought, okay, clearly this is enough money to get going, but I forgot that I have to live on this money and run the business, right? So make sure you're saving, make sure you get your financial habits in place, because again, once you start seeking capital, we want to see a good track record. And finally, I cannot say it enough, especially just coming out of COVID, establish a banking relationship. Whether you're still fully employed or you're a business, your bank is not just simply who holds your money. They need to know who you are, they need to know your business, because it's going to become much easier when you need to capital for them to already know who you are. They may be more willing to work with you. They may actually think of you when there's someone else. I get a lot of calls from bankers who go, I can't service this. Is this something you take a look at? So having that relationship is key. All right. Now, this is where things. I couldn't hear what you said. Sorry, Siri's going a little crazy on my watch here. All right. What kind of business are you? The reason a lot of businesses aren't getting the capital they really need to grow is because they don't know what kind of business they are. I see a lot of small businesses come through my venture capital arm. Venture capital is really not looking to support your barbershop unless you've tech enabled it and it's doing something else that is scalable. But vice versa. If you walk into a bank with a great idea for an app, they're going to look at you maybe a little weird, okay? They're going to kind of go, come back to us when you made some money. So be able to understand and honestly identify which type of business am I? Am I a small business? Am I something that's more high growth, that's tech enabled, that's going to be scalable? Why is this important? Neither one is good or bad. I think we now have this idea that it's much more sexy to be VC backed, or it's much more sexy to be high growth. Trust me, I know a lot of Main Street businesses that are killing it, that are making hundreds of millions of dollars. Why? Because they knew what lane they were in and they executed. So know what type of business you are first. Okay. So let's start with those small businesses, lifestyle businesses, Main Street businesses, whatever we want to call them. All right. Venture capital is generally not going to be well suited for most businesses actually, but it's really not well suited for a Main Street business. You may find some angel investors that want to participate in funding your business, but small private investors, they may have some interest, but it's going to be really expensive capital. The SBA is a great place to actually get small business funding. And remember when I say small business, I'm talking Main Street business. Local banks and local lenders. Okay. So I said they may not be interested in a startup, but if it's a proven business, if it's something they really understand and you have a banking relationship, usually your local bank can attach you to the SBA. They help you get through that application and they can help get your business funded and get the capital in that you need. Now, if you're going to go to any of these folks, all my Main Street businesses, make sure you have a good business plan. Make sure that you know exactly what you're asking for. If it's a Main Street business, it probably is a business that has a very well-worn path to making money. If it's a restaurant, you got to make some stuff. Somebody's got to buy it or eat it, and then you bank the money, right? You make sure that you know your business inside and out when you're going into a bank. I can tell you a lot of people are so afraid of their finances. They want it to be either $1 billion company or they are real optimistic. If you're going to go to your bank to fund your Main Street business, make sure you know your business and you know it well. I'm going to assume most people here are from North Carolina. So where do you go if you're a Main Street business to get capital? Mecklenburg County runs a great small business lending program, and they love to see people of color. Okay. Carolina Small Business Development Fund, again, another small lender that can do microloans. I think they can do up to $250,000, but that's a good foundation for a Main Street or lifestyle or small business. If you're in Western North Carolina, look at Mountain BizWorks. They do some fantastic things. I've seen them help get wineries funded. I've seen them help people construct breweries. That's a great place to go if you're in Western Carolina. Thread Capital, they're up in Raleigh, I believe, out of the Rural Center. Again, they're going to be really good at helping get smaller microloans into your business. And then I would be remiss wearing my HBCU Pride shirt today if I did not mention Banking Black or a smaller CDFI is a great way to go to get capital into your business. Again, establishing that relationship. I know the people at M&F, I do not get paid. I do not get paid to promote or push any accounts, but I do know that the people there will get your business plan, they will read it, and then they will say, hey, I think we can get this through the SBA, or they won't. Again, establishing that relationship to help you know whether or not you're on the right track. The most costly thing for a business is to be asking for money from a pool or pot that's never going to give it to you. All right, so on to high growth, tech-enabled, scalable companies. So when I say this, this is the list. This is the kind of companies we're talking about. I mean, there should be some names on there that you recognize. These are well-known, scalable, started off at one time as a startup. One of my favorites is Uber, of course, just because if you had told us 15 years ago that we would hop in the car with a stranger, tell them where we need to go, and pay them money to do so, and they can track us everywhere, everybody would have went, that's dumb, right? But now that's a startup that has fleshed out a model that is moving forward. So when I say high growth or tech enabled, these are the kind of companies I am talking about. All right, if you are early stage, meaning you have just started things, and you have, you're coming up with your concept, or you have a concept and you're trying to firm it up to get to a few things. If you want to attract capital, then you need to be focused on these things on one side here. Customer discovery. What does customer discovery mean? Let me slow down a bit. That means, who are you selling to? Who is the person that your company is speaking to that is going to drive a revenue? Okay. Make sure you know who your customer is. And if you don't know who your customer is, this is where surveys come into play. This is where doing your research. This is where working with someone who can take you through a customer discovery process. Venture Prize down at UNCC does a great job of this. 2, focus on building traction. You got to make sure there actually is a market. And even if you can get people to test out your things, if you're early stage and pre-revenue, building some traction to let any of your funders know that this is a thing, and no, it wasn't pre-identified before, but people seem to be paying for this. Generate revenue. Now, yes, I did say you're pre-revenue. However, even if you're making a couple of dollars, literally get somebody to buy your thing is a great place to be. Focus on building a team. One of the things I see a lot that's a hindrance for a lot of businesses, especially on the funding side, is you're a one-man show. I know we think about entrepreneurship as a singular activity, but nobody builds a startup by themselves if they really want it to scale. So you may not be able to pay people, but you should have your eyeballs out for who your team's going to be or who's going to own an area of expertise. I told you guys I had a failed business. Why was it a failed business? Because I was the smartest person in the world and I could do everything under the sun. Okay, I didn't focus on building a team, which meant when funders saw me, they saw one big flashing liability because I couldn't do everything in the business. And they like to use the, if you get hit by a bus, what happens, right? The whole business crumbles if I don't have a team. Sharpen your value proposition. Again, remember, the mind of a funder is saying, how am I going to get my money back? Which means the thing you're putting out into the world has to have some value and it's got to be easily understandable, right? I love to see early stage companies with developed plans to present. Who are your potential funders if you're early stage or pre-revenue? You. If you don't put any skin in the game in your own company, I'm not biting. And I invest in a lot of concepts, but you need to be able to put some financial skin in the game. Your sweat equity is just not enough in these days and times, okay? If you're not willing to write a check, nobody else is. I like to use also the 3 F's, friends, family, and fools, okay? Now, hopefully your friends and family don't turn out to be fools because they gave you a little money, but that's usually most people's earliest stages of funders, even small amounts. Be careful when you are working with the 3 F's here that you're not giving huge chunks of equity away though. I see a lot of people think, oh, well, they gave me $1,000, so now they own 25% of my company. That is not the way that works, okay? And even start to think about not giving out equity to anybody until you get to a certain point. Other potential funders, we talked about CDFIs or those small community banks. Non-dilutive funding. What's non-dilutive funding? That's any funds that come in that you don't have to pay back, whether it be in equity or in debt. Non-dilutive funding, think grants. We have NCIDEA. They're currently taking applications until Monday at 5 o'clock for micro grants, $10,000. That's non-dilutive funding because they're not asking you for anything in return other than to push your business forward. Incubators. Okay, a word on incubators. I love incubators. However, the incubator has to actually be staffed by experts. Okay, so a lot of incubators can give you some really invaluable tech expertise. They can give you good customer discovery expertise. They can help you in a lot of different ways, but incubators, make sure you're vetting them, make sure that the people who teach and guide you there are actually knowledgeable. Okay. If you're early stage and post revenue, what should you be focused on? Growth, 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 meaning traction, traction, traction. Okay, start focusing on some of those partnerships that will continue to help you make more money. Focus on scaling. Okay, I'm currently operating in Charlotte. How do I get this concept into Durham or into Winston-Salem or into South Carolina? Post revenue, you want to start focusing on that and then start thinking about what your potential exit is. Potential funders on the post revenue side of things. This is where VC starts to come really into play. Right now, there are some early seed stage VC firms and angel investors, but I will tell you, they're going to tell you, we want to see some kind of revenue. We want to see some early traction, okay? Institutional lenders. So coming back to the bank, you might be a startup, but if you have some good traction, you may be able to pull in some specialty institutional lenders. Retained earnings. This is one of the areas that people always forget. If you have a business and you are generating money, you don't have to pay everybody all at once. Retain some of those earnings to put back into the business to continue to grow. My opinion is you should put off external fundraising as long as you possibly can in order to preserve enough value in that company. You're much more valuable if you grow as much as you can before start pulling in investors than if from day zero you're starting with a bunch of investors. Why? I like to see founders actually exit with some money, okay? All right, so I feel like I'm missing a slide. I might be one out. Where do you find funders? I think I got a few minutes left here. Lots and lots of places for you to find funders. Networking. Networking is one of those weird words that we all hate. I personally hate the word networking. But what does this mean? This means you cannot be afraid if you're trying to raise money to talk to other people. I think a lot of times entrepreneurs are afraid somebody's going to steal their stuff. I would say, does it happen? It does sometimes, but make sure that you are networking. People have to know you're seeking capital, right? They have to know you have something worth investing in. Your Chamber of Commerce. There are lots of chambers of commerce, depending on where you are. There's US Chamber, there's the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance, there's the local Black Chamber, there's the Latin American Chamber, there's the Asian Chamber. Chambers of Commerce, no matter what your affinity group is a great place to also just get ingrained in the business community. Your bank, again, establish that relationship. Once you establish that relationship, they start thinking for you because banks want to be aligned with businesses that are going to come to them for really big loans, right? So make sure that they know what you're doing. They know what you're building. They know what's next. I sometimes just go meet with my banker, you know, every quarter or two, just so they know the trajectory of the business, because they may know some funds that could directly benefit the business that I didn't know about. SPDTC, these are generally on college campuses. We have one, I believe, at CPCC. There's one in Winston-Salem, but these folks are people, some of them are from the industry that have been working with small businesses, and they know lots and lots of investors and funders. Local angel investor groups, literally Google's your friend. If you are someone who is in the growth stage, here are some really cool places where you can maybe find some funders. Pitch breakfast. I act as a judge sometimes with pitch breakfast. It's a very friendly environment for you to pitch your company. Even if you're not pitching, I can tell you lots of investors are in that room already. You never know who you might bump into. That might be your next funder. There's an event called Funders and Founders. It's put on by Innovate Charlotte. Wonderful meet and greet type of situation. I think they just had one Thursday at Ink and Ivy. If you're down in Charlotte, there's another organization I'd love for you to look up called Incolo. Incolo, it is a company, full disclosure, that I have invested in, but they are centered around moving money around, specifically through crowd sourcing or crowd investing. So look up Incolo. If you are someone who's maybe looking for investments, they also hook into a few different platforms where you can see other opportunities that you might be able to invest in. All right, so the universe of financing, when I started this conversation to say that there is no shortage of capital, these are all of the funders. I mean, this is really overwhelming. Bottom line is everybody wants you to have a plan. They want to know how you're going to make money, and in turn, they want to know how they're going to get their money back, okay? Just a quick word on crowdfunding. People think it's the easiest thing in the world because we have social media. Crowdfunding can be a good tool to pre-sell your products or to get capital in to build products. It's a bit easier because it is automated, and you may reach a wide audience, but I can tell you it is very time intensive. So if you already don't have a good network and you're not going to put the time and effort into marketing and promotion, crowdfunding might not be for you, but make sure you do your homework because potential fees via different platforms can really eat into your raise. And then just my final thoughts, and then I am done here. Know your business. I mean, inside and out. Know your products. Know what you're doing. Be obsessed with your numbers. I can tell you, I love it when a business can tell me how much it's going to cost to make the thing if they do it on a Saturday or a Sunday. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but be obsessed with your numbers. Know them in and out, okay? Be able to tell the funder how they're going to make their money back. Be patient. Being patient when you're trying to raise money is really easier said than done. That's why you need to ask for it way before you need it. I can tell you one person I work with currently, he got 210 no's before he got his first check. And remember, it only takes one check. Accountants and lawyers are your friends. Don't cut corners. I know we have internet-based companies that can help you pull all your documents together, but these two people should be key components to your team. Investors. I'm an investor. I love investors. Don't let anybody tell you there's anything called a silent investor, because if I put my money in, it's going to speak very loudly. And then finally, you got this. We can raise money. We know the statistics about whether or not you can pull money into your fund, or I'm sorry, into your business, or you can do what you need to do, but you got this. There are people who are willing to deploy capital into your business.
This has been great, Dr. Shante Williams. This is absolutely great. Is it okay to send questions here?
Yes, my information is on the screen, and it's absolutely okay to ping me with questions, whether it's my site, directly via email, or on social media.
I think we got time to take one at least right now.
Okay.
If I could jump in there for this one question. So you emphasize the need for banking relationships. So I have relationships across a few different banks, but also what's your take on business credit? Because that's something that I'm, kind of working on building right now.
That's a good idea. No, build your business credit. It is a little bit of a black box. Working with someone who actually specializes in helping you to build that, I think it's a great idea. It's very difficult though to build a business credit early on because your business has no track record. So over time, as you get more accounts payable, I think you should be building that business credit. I will say, and this may be social media unpopular, I'm not a fan of trying to build your business credit by going out and buying a vehicle if your company doesn't need a vehicle. So just be smart about how you're building that credit because once you build it, you also have to be able to manage it. So a credit card in your business name is a great idea. Make sure you're paying that balance on time. And a key component to building business credit, of course, is your Duns and Bradstreet number. If you haven't done that, you need to do that because that's like step 0 amongst a very long chain of steps there.
Thank you.
Okay, great. I want to thank you again for taking us through this session. I like actually how you changed that from access to capital to deployment of capital. That was great. And so I'm gonna start thinking about it that way for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And so with that, we're now at our 12 o'clock session. When we first started putting this together, we had one speaker lined up for this free legal session, but they came back with me with a curveball, and they had 3 speakers that they wanted to have come talk to us. And so I'm gonna turn this over to the 3 of them and have them to talk about how they want to facilitate going through this next 30 minutes. But we've got Kim Bart Mullikiin, Kaitlin Powers, and Joe Culik, and I'll let them tell us a little bit more about what they do. And if I mispronounce your name, please fix that for me.
Thank you so much. So Joe is going to share screen our presentation. We're really glad to be with you today. I will take note of the bullet that we just saw in the prior presentation, that lawyers are your friends, and we certainly can be. So we want to share with you today about some of the resources that are available to entrepreneurs, particularly in the Charlotte area. The 3 folks who'll be speaking with you today are myself, Kim Bart Mullikiin. I am with the NC Bar Foundation, which runs a number of programs to assist different populations of folks around the state. But in particular, I'll be sharing about our program called NC Leap. We also have with us Kaitlin Powers. She is with a law firm, Moore Van Allen. That is, she's in the Charlotte office of that firm, but she will be sharing about a relatively new free legal services program or pro bono program that is being offered to low wealth entrepreneurs in Charlotte. And Joe Culik will be sharing a bit about the lawyer referral service located in the Charlotte area. That is a program offered by the Mecklenburg County Bar. Joe, do you mind advancing the slide? We can go one more. So first, I'm going to share a bit about a program called NC Leap. What NC Leap is a free legal services or pro bono program that was started by the North Carolina Bar Association in 2007. We started that with the assistance of our business law section. Now it's run by the Bar Foundation, by me and our program staff. The Bar Foundation basically is the charitable arm of the Bar Association. And what we do through the NC Leap program is we coordinate volunteer attorneys to provide free pro bono business law legal services to low wealth entrepreneurs. And I'm going to go ahead and put our program link up in the chat box for anybody who wants to check out our site. So what we do through NC Leap is we basically offer 2 main services. So the first program that we offer are a series of webinars on business law related topics. All of these webinars are offered live, and we'd be glad to send the information to all of the related organizations part of this program today. It provides the opportunity for you to hear from a lawyer on a discrete legal topic related to business law and ask questions, which is actually some of the best benefit of these webinars. These are nice casual webinars, all done virtually, but we do record them and then we post them on our website, the website that I just included in the chat. Currently, we have a number of topics posted on our website, and you can review the recordings anytime you'd like. We have getting started for entrepreneurs. We have contracts. Why do I need them for my small business? When is the right time to form an entity? And commercial lease agreements, and of course, employment law 101. I'll note that we are starting to get together our next round of webinars for this fall and for the spring. And I invite you to suggest any legal topics that you might have particular interest in learning about. Feel free to email me your business legal webinar ideas. The way to reach me and that program is through the email address ncleap@ncbar.org. And I'm also putting that into the chat. The second program that we offer through the NC Leap project is coordinating brief advice and counsel sessions. We do these in partnership with organizations across the state that work directly with entrepreneurs. We've worked with Prospera. We also work with the statewide Small Business Center Network. These services are currently being held virtually, but we do hope to restart in-person clinics as soon as we're able to do so safely. But basically, these sessions provide an opportunity for entrepreneurs to meet one-on-one with a business law attorney and get guidance and advice on sort of very discrete legal questions, such as, should I be an LLC, or is a different corporate entity ideal for my goals? They'll help review contracts. They could provide legal guidance on what your business needs right now, what you should be thinking about, how to get or to do the things in order to launch, sustain, or grow your business. These are very limited sessions. We limit them to about 45 minutes per session, but they're a really great way to sort of get some of your basic legal questions answered and help move the ball forward on development of your business. I will note also, it's not part of this program, but I think it is notable given the set of entrepreneurs that I see we have in the room. The North Carolina Bar Foundation also runs a separate pro bono program specifically to assist low wealth inventors with patent applications. And this is called the Patent Pro Bono Program. I did want to include our website link to that, just for anybody on the presentation who actually might have interest or discrete interest in receiving assistance with patent law applications. I knocked that website into the chat bar as well. We are going to go through our presentations and hopefully have room at the end for questions, but you can feel free to email me at any time at ncleap@ncbar.org. Next up is Kaitlin.
Hi, it's great to be with y'all today. I'm talking about CLIMB, which is the Charlotte Legal Initiative to Mobilize Businesses. We're just in our pilot phase now, but it is providing low-income entrepreneurs with and other small businesses with volunteer lawyers who can help them with their business needs, businesses' legal needs. As opposed to the NC Leap's Ask a Lawyer sessions, this is a little more of a long-term relationship that you'll be able to have, although it'll be limited in scope to particular projects. So it may take anywhere from 10 to say 40 hours of legal work. It is free. We're at this point a collaboration of 2 law firms, although we're in the near future expanding that to multiple law firms throughout Charlotte who work together to connect qualifying owners and businesses with an attorney who can help them meet their needs. Right now, we're providing an application process. It's not available on our website yet. We're only going through specific organizations. But once an application is submitted, we'll screen the application to make sure it is a sort of legal need that our volunteer attorneys that are currently available to assist have the expertise to be able to meet that need. And then also we have some income eligibility criteria. If it's a startup that isn't producing revenue yet, then it would be based on the personal income of the owner of the business. If it is an operating business, then it would be based on the revenue and profits of the organization. At this point, we're providing all non-litigation services. So we're not able to assist with disputes that are being settled in court. We can help with forming a business, deciding which type of business you should be, helping with the organizational documents, getting all that prepared. Once you've formed, we can help you fine tune those documents and figure out any corporate governance issues, what individuals you need to approve certain transactions and decisions, that sort of thing. We also offer assistance documenting financing transactions and any sort of private equity investments, just general contract advice. If you're entering into supply agreements, other agreements with vendors. We also offer help negotiating commercial leases, reviewing the terms of leases to make sure any sort of activity you would be contemplating would not violate terms of a lease. With tax issues, this would not be, again, tax issues which have gone to any sort of litigation with the government, but just kind of on the front end, setting up to make sure you're able to be both the best form for tax purposes and just kind of, as you're moving and growing, to make sure that you're continuing to be able to maintain in compliance, but also, taking advantage of any tax structures that would be beneficial. We help with employment issues such as negotiating employment agreements with employees. And then we also provide intellectual property assistance. This would be primarily with copyrights and trademarks, given that the NC Bar Foundation has their patent program as well. We can go to the next slide. As I mentioned earlier, the application is not yet available on our website since we're still in our pilot phase and growing. So if you are interested in applying to legal services with Climb, you can reach out to the Charlotte chapter of the National Black MBA, and they will be able to provide you with their application and direct you to us if you have any questions about that. And they also may be able to answer some of your questions. We're hoping to fully launch and open the application to the public in early 2022. So we're looking forward to that. And our website address is climbandfee.org. So I'll drop that into the chat in a minute as well. All right, and I'll turn it over to you, Joe.
Okay, thanks, Kaitlin. I'm Joe Culik. I'm an attorney in Charlotte, and I'm here because I'm the chairman of the Mecklenburg Bar Lawyer Referral Service. And I'll drop that URL in the chat as well. It's an attorney finder service through the Mecklenburg County Bar to find attorneys for specific practice areas, all sorts of practice areas, but in particular, business law issues. It is for people or clients who are in the category that you're going to be paying for legal representation. So it is not a pro bono service. It's for finding an attorney to hire. We used to do referrals by phone. A few years ago, we went all online. We got rid of the referral fee that the bar charged, even though attorneys can charge, basically attorneys can set their own fees, but there's no fee for the referral through the bar. What the LRS does is it screens the attorneys who are on the different panels. So attorneys can sign up, say which area of law they specifically practice in, and the bar makes sure that they have sufficient insurance and make sure that there are no ethical issues or disciplinary issues. So they've been screened at that level at least. pretty straightforward in terms of the way it works. You just go to that URL that I put in, mecbar.org/LRS, and you can specify what type of issue you have, and you'll get an email with 3 attorneys' names who practice in that area. And most of them have some biographical information, a little bit of background. Of course, you can Google them too. You probably should. The attorneys can't call you. It's an ethical rule we have. So if you use this, you'll have to call one or or all of them, and it may be a good idea to do that. And then you're kind of off and running at that point. And so what we thought might be helpful for this is, I don't know, how many attorneys everyone has hired. There's probably different levels of experience with attorneys. And so I just wanted to mention a few things. And Kim, Kaitlin, feel free to jump in if you want to share anything. I think sort of the first, or one of the first things that I would recommend is, if you're going to hire an attorney for your business, it's probably someone, if things go well, that you'll be having a long-term business relationship with. And just like any relationship, you want somebody that you're going to be comfortable with. They don't have to be your best friend. Somebody may have gone to Harvard or Duke or have all sorts of credentials, but you just may not click with them. And that's fine. I think it's really important, the only thing more important than your business is your family. And you want that to work well. So talk to attorneys until you're talking to somebody that you're comfortable with. Fees is another issue. There are no uniform fees. In fact, attorneys can't coordinate on setting fees. And different attorneys all have different rates and different fee structures. It can vary a lot between firms. You're usually going to be dealing with flat fee or hourly. Most attorneys that I know are going to ask for some or all of at least some initial fee up front. But what I would say, again, just like any relationship, communication, I think the fee part of the relationship is the hardest thing. Well, in my personal experience, it's the hardest thing for me to talk to clients about. And I think it's sometimes the hardest thing for clients to talk about. So I think just having open lines of communication, saying, hey, can you give me an idea of what this is going to cost? If it's flat fee, of course, your fees are capped. If it's hourly, that may be more for something like litigation, where a lot of what's going to happen in the case is going to be dependent on what the other side does or makes you do, things like that. Experience, you should feel free to, and you should ask about what kind of experience the attorney has with issues like yours. If somebody only handles divorces, well, that may not be the best thing for your company. And, if somebody only handles corporate law, they may not be the best person for your divorce, heaven forbid. So just get a sense of their experience, that they seem like they're competent to handle the type of issue you have. And I guess the last thing that I would mention in terms of recommendations is setting expectations for communication. We're all, everybody's text messaging with each other. We're on all sorts of messenger services. People a lot of times expect an email back or a text back immediately. And the thing that at least I've heard people complain most about attorneys with is communication. So to ask at the beginning, like, when am I going to get an email back from you if I have a question? Or when am I going to get a call back from you? I was in a deposition, I guess 2 days ago, and it was all day. I couldn't respond to emails during that time. And so I've got an autoresponder on, and I've got my associate who's available, and she's referenced in my autoresponder. you want to make sure that there's somebody, I guess, that you know what to do or who to contact if there's an emergency. And for normal stuff, how long you should expect to wait. Do they prefer emails or phone calls? Just all that sort of baseline communication stuff. Again, like in any relationship that you're going to have with someone. So I don't know, Kaitlin or Kim, there's probably a million things that I didn't mention on that issue in terms of hiring an attorney and maybe keeping them. Do you all have any thoughts or anything that you want to add? I'm sure we can take some questions if anybody wants to punch some in the chat too.
I had a couple of more ideas for things to keep in mind when you are looking to engage an attorney. Finding an attorney can be really hard, and where Google can be really effective for researching attorneys, it's sometimes very ineffective for finding attorneys. There's no telling why a particular attorney's name will rise to the top of a search list in Google, and it might be a very bad reason. So one thing I would recommend actually is asking around. If you have people in your networks that have successfully engaged relationships with attorneys, ask them who they used and if they liked them and why they liked them. And I would emphasize, like Joe said, you can attorney shop. Don't go far and wide, because every little bit will cost you some money and will, kind of be spreading out your resources. But you don't have to work with an attorney. That is an opt-in relationship. So find somebody who you're comfortable working with, and hopefully some colleagues will have some recommendations there. The other thing that I will note is when you do have the opportunity to speak with an attorney, either through one of the programs that we talked about today, or if you go and seek an attorney to hire, be prepared, come prepared, be organized in your approach. Make sure that you have all of your documents together. You know what you need from the attorney. Come prepared to ask the questions that you need, and be prepared to share the information that the attorney might need to know in order to assist you. Again, for an attorney, much like other professional services, accountants, what have you, time is money. And particularly for that consultation, you might have just a very limited amount of time to meet with the attorney. So make sure you're going to get the best bang for your buck by coming really well prepared, knowing what you want to ask the attorney, coming with a question, coming with something that you are specifically asking of them. They are there to share their knowledge. And there's other places that can review a business plan. There's other places that can talk you through tax structure. But use an attorney to answer legal questions, and make sure you know what those questions are before you come.
Completely agree with Joe and Kim's advice. One other thing I would mention is just, don't try to hide issues you think are going to be complicated and plan to divulge those later in the relationship, because it's going to likely end up costing you more later if it's something that you wait, and it could have been dealt with a lot more easily and cheaply if you had mentioned it up front.
Yeah, that's a great point, Kaitlin. It looks like we do have a few minutes for questions if anybody has them.
Yeah, I certainly have a couple. You addressed one of them already. First, I want to say thanks to all three of you for being here. Very efficient. You must have planned or rehearsed this in advance. You get the three people in the time limit, so I appreciate that. I guess it's interesting, your comments around shopping, or I shouldn't say shopping, but interviewing or looking at different lawyers for referral. And I've done that in the past, and certainly taking those referrals from other people is certainly a good tactic that you mentioned. One thing that's always confused me a little bit is how much differences there are in the prices that we sometimes get back. And I'm just curious, why is that? Is just because of a firm's overhead, or is it just based on their availability? Or I mean, it can be pretty extreme. So I just wanted to hear you all's thoughts on that.
Yeah, I just talked to somebody yesterday, and we were talking about somebody buying equity in his business, and he said, I can't believe, what your price is. I talked to somebody in Chicago a couple days ago, and it was, 3 times as much. And I don't know if that's the Chicago premium that he was paying. If like, I think it's really hard to know. I almost wish attorneys did have some sort of uniform fee schedule, because you can have somebody who's never done it before, so they're going to charge you for their learning how to do what your issue is. I think it's really, I wish there was a better way to know more about attorneys going into it, about who you're dealing with. So I think that's why it's important to ask a lot of questions, ask what they've done before. If somebody, there's not so good people in every business you can go into. There's some of those in attorneys too. I don't think that's shocking anybody. But so to ask those kinds of questions, to get comfortable, I'll have sometimes, I like those conversations, because sometimes somebody will say, I hope you don't mind, I don't mean to, I'm like, ask away. If I don't know it, I shouldn't be handling it, and I'll try to find somebody who can. And if I do, and I think if you don't have somebody who's kind of upfront with you about what they can do, there are plenty of other attorneys that you can go to, and maybe it's going to take some more time, and maybe it's a hassle, but in the long run, it's your business.
No, thanks for that answer. I'm sure there's a lot of factors that go into that. I just any recommendations or thoughts on when you hear so much variation? Is there a way to like contact? I don't know if there's I don't even know where you even go. I think about other, I think about being an engineer. I would go check my engineering society to see, hey, is this the kind of range that I would expect for this service? I'm just curious, just to see if it's even in the ballpark. Any thoughts on that one, Kaitlin, Kim, or Jill?
I would say attorneys are really hesitant to publish any kind of their rates. To be honest, every client in every case, every question situation is different. And
Right.
So even in the space of the flat fee for X service, for example, I've practiced in the family law area. You could find an attorney who will do a quote unquote simple divorce for say $1,000. But, when you really get into it, is it simple? And then, if it's not, those fees are going to change. It's the same way with a lot of different legal services. And attorneys set their fee structures in different ways. So I would encourage people to, like Joe said, ask, like, what am I getting for the dollars I'll be paying you? Questions like, are fees included or will they be extra? So sometimes, for example, in patent, there's quite a bit of fees that you have to pay a lot of fees to file a patent. So ask, will that be part of your fees, or will that be in addition? Will that be something I'll have to pay in addition to paying your fee? Ask the attorney what part they'll be doing. So some attorneys will help prepare applications, but expect a client to file them, for example. So just being very clear on what the service is being offered across the attorneys you're asking. That could account for some of the fee difference, because one attorney's sense of what it's going to take to, help you draw up a labor contract and what goes into that might just be a really different service than a different attorney is contemplating. And that would account for their different fee structures as well. Googling an attorney is a good start. There are attorney rating services out there. Some attorneys put themselves out on these rating services. You can get Google reviews on some attorneys, although note, of course, people tend to take advantage of review opportunities when they're disappointed more often than when they're really happy with a service. But it is one way to get a little bit of sense. Some things to look at. What does the attorney list as their areas of practice? If you see an attorney who lists business law and family law and, you know, real estate practice, that should ring a bell or raise a flag for you. It probably means they're doing a little bit of everything. You might be more interested in looking for an attorney who is really focused on business law and doesn't list a world of other practice areas that he or she's involved in. So just a little bit of digging can help you get a little bit better sense of your options.
So this is Syreeta Atiase. I have intermittent connection, but that raises a question that I have related to as your business starts to scale, do you recommend a firm that could cover more areas of expertise? Because then, you know, you may have an intellectual property and trademark lawyer, then you have a business attorney. Like, what's your recommendation as companies are scaling and growing?
Kaitlin, do you have a thought there?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I mean, I do think practically it's not going to likely in different areas going to be the same attorney that is working on the matter. So you can just within it being the same firm achieve a little bit of kind of synergies by, you know, them having had your documents and being familiar with your business before. But I wouldn't say you should choose kind of only one law firm to work with, because it is going to be different attorneys likely that are working on your intellectual property than on your employment agreements, for example, or negotiating your leases. So don't feel like, you know, you have to be loyal. I think it's very much expected in the market that, you know, you might go to different people for different areas of needs.
Thank you.
Okay, well, this brings us to, we're at the 12:31 time frame. And so a little bit beyond, a minute beyond, and that's okay. It kind of leads us right into the wrap-up session. And I kind of structured this in two parts. I want to leave the first couple of minutes for you all to give us we all strive for continuous improvement. And so want to open this piece up in terms of you all giving us any feedback on our inaugural session for this event. And so if you want to do that now or be able to do that via the chat, that would be great. And then the second piece of this would be opening up to the presidents of each of the STEM Alliance chapters in their organizations to kind of talk a little bit about what they would like to see going forward coming out of this particular event. So with that, floor is open for any feedback or comments relative to this event today. And if you don't, you know, everybody may be on mute and talking and I can't hear you.
Well, Jose, if we want to get folks put stuff in the chat and you want to go ahead and let the presidents give some thoughts, then we can certainly do that.
That'd be great. Let's move right into that.
Awesome. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Well, first, Yolanda, you're at the top. You want to start us off?
I'll go if she's
Natasha.
not able to. Yeah, so thank you so much for everyone who's participated. I'm really excited for our work for the upcoming year. I just wanted to call out that the Blacks in Technology Conference is coming up in October. And if you thought today was great, you'll hear more from Black leaders and speakers in the technology space at that conference. Similar to this, you'll hear experts in different subdisciplines of technology. Our marquee speakers are Damon John this year and Judy Smith. So that's very exciting, and lots of network opportunities, representation from large companies in tech, as well as opportunities for entrepreneurs to get access. So that's the second week of October. If you go to blacksintechnology.net, you can learn more, or feel free to reach out to me on any social media platform for the local Charlotte chapter. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Natasha. Fantastic leader. Excited about the partnership with Blacks in Technology as part of the Alliance. Yolanda or Tony?
I'll go ahead and go. Want to first thank all the speakers for all the information and insights you gave us today. It definitely was a great conference. I can't believe it's almost 1 o'clock already. I definitely took a lot of notes, and sounds like I need to focus on building a team. So I think that was a common theme in all of the segments. So again, thank you guys for all of your information. If you can, please share your presentations maybe with Jose, and then we can get them out to everybody. And then also want to thank all the organizations that helped put this together. Again, this was a really great event. Can't wait to the next one. Definitely seems like it's some other, I guess, building blocks we need to put out there, because it sounds like we have a lot of steps within the process. So definitely looking forward to that. Again, if you guys are interested in NSBE, we do start kickoff with our first, we have a social on that Sunday, the 15th. So you guys are welcome to attend that, as well as our first general body meeting 3 days later. So check us out, nsbecharlotte.org. And again, I thank everybody for participating today.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony. Certainly, NSBE is an amazing organization. So thanks for those comments. Yolanda, are you on it? She may have to drop. I'm not sure. I can't see the list of folks.
She's still showing us logged in.
Okay, so she may have to step away for a second. If that's the case, I'll go ahead and just add some comments. Listen, I reiterate Tony's last comments and thank all the speakers for joining. It's amazing. This went by pretty fast. We had that and a tremendous amount of information. So that hopefully we can find valuable for our business owners, which we had quite a few on the call. This to me, we did National Black partner with the city. We did an event last year for a boot camp in the middle of COVID, trying to pivot and help people reimagine their business during COVID, and which was great. We had 25 businesses associated with that. But to be able to do this with these other just outstanding organizations and offer this to across members of our chapters, and we hopefully entice someone to want to get their side hustle on, or either get in the game of entrepreneurship. Because I think you look at the services like we just looked at from Joe, Kaitlin, and Kim that are out there to help enable that, or some of the funding opportunities that certainly how we find funds. It's just from Dr. Shante. I mean, that was very beneficial. The whole accounting piece. Every segment today has been outstanding, with hopefully giving us confidence that we can be successful with not only starting businesses, but growing our businesses, and enabling to work with organizations like Train Technologies, which, our supplier diversity program is actually that strategy is being revamped as well. So there's a lot of opportunities out there right now to really grow businesses, and certainly from a STEM perspective, but just businesses overall. We came together. We want to encourage all of us on the line and our members that see the recording, that you can be successful in this space. So thanks. We'll give a special thanks to Jose Wilkins, who did a great job of keeping us on schedule and putting together leading us through the agenda development, and just looking forward to continuing to partner with the other organizations here as we move forward for the balance of the year and into next year.
Wanda, did you ever come on?
She asked that I just mention that folks can follow up with her for their interest in NAVA events for the upcoming year by emailing her at president@navacharlotte.org.
Perfect.
Okay. But this has been awesome. I got my juices and excitement level up, and most of all, be able to give you back 15 minutes on this Saturday afternoon. And so with that, thank you, and may God bless.
Yeah, thanks, Jose. Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day, guys.